Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. You've survived another week, and here's the start of another one. And today is what? Two.
The two in Tuesday's doing a lot of work today.
Tuesday.
Oh, it's also Tuesday, yeah.
It literally is Tuesday. 2/22/2022.
We're doing government and social news today.
Can you associate that with two somehow? We're doing two topics today.
Two topics on Tuesday. Two.
And two is also peace. There's not a lot of that in the world right now.
Hopefully it doesn't get worse by the time this airs.
True. There could be a lot less by the time you see this.
Yeah.
But we do have a little something to be happy about, I guess, although this doesn't affect us, but I'm sure it affects many of you. I'm sure you're very happy to hear this, although I suspect that you will have a lot of arguments coming up with your landlord.
Yeah.
Rebuffing the cable lobby, the FCC has banned deals that block competition in apartments. One need look no further than New York City to understand how astonishingly bad this is, even given the mega metropolis that is New York City. Landlords make deals with cable providers or other providers all the time, and they provide subpar service because there's no competition. It's no secret. And so finally the FCC is saying, this is kind of dumb and not in people's interest. It only took 25 years.
Apparently this was already illegal, but there were so many loopholes that it just didn't matter, and so this aims to close all of those up. But like I say, don't expect it to just work.
Yeah.
You're probably still going to fight somebody over this.
Yeah.
And there probably still are exceptions, like if you want satellite, you can't mount it to the building.
Probably true, yeah. But hey, incremental change, all right?
Yeah.
It's the best we can hope for. And maybe some less incremental change is coming to our semiconductor industry here in this country, of which we have basically none. But we're looking to get a lot because now everybody's suddenly realizing what a problem it is not having that.
Global Foundries wants to know your location.
But a lot of people are opposed to spending at that magnitude, especially with hyperinflation kicking in. And so they got to fight for it.
Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo urges Congress to pass the semiconductor funding bills that could impact Intel's Ohio plans. That headline has a bit of fear-mongering in it. She's just popping up and saying, hey, Intel expects certain things to be in place. They've already got the ball rolling. We really don't have our house in order. We need to clarify exactly how this is going to work because it could go this way or this way. And right now their expectation is that this thing will be in place, but it's not. We really need to shore that up.
Also, that's Cleveland.com. They have a reason to be loud about this.
Yeah. Maybe a little bias in the headline.
A little bias in everything, Krista. What isn't biased these days? Certainly, the mainstream media is overwhelmingly biased, and the information they're giving us may be not so trustworthy, but according to them, getting your information anywhere else is essentially terrorism.
The Associated Press has the headline, the U.S. accuses financial website of spreading Russian propaganda. What's going on with this? Why is the Associated Press doing this? This is weird.
Probably because that website has more readers than they do. The website is Zero Hedge, and they do post some anti-American stuff, absolutely, because America sucks a lot of the time. But I don't know if they're necessarily pro-Russia. Anyway, they decided they were upset enough about it to press release it, and they said that you shouldn't go to those places and you should only listen to them.
There's a lot of stuff in this article that you could probably comment on in the comments below.
My guess is most people who are loyal Zero Hedge followers naturally are inclined to mistrust the U.S. government. Yes. And so this announcement is probably not going to undermine most of Zero Hedge's core support. But it gets you a headline, doesn't it?
I mean, we're talking about it.
I mean, if I hadn't seen, all of the crazy stuff around like Ajit Pai and passing the laws and defining black as white and up as down, and okay. It's like,
Also, maybe just a touch, just a smidgen. And I know this is Russian propaganda, but just a smidgen of conflict of interest from our commander-in-chief when it comes to Ukraine? Do most people not know that?
No, they don't.
Burisma. That's what you need to Google.
There we go on the naughty list again.
Yeah, that probably is a banned word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And speaking of Biden, he has, he's not saying a whole lot here other than
This is a follow-up. We reported this. This is just like they're just breathing on it.
the hammer is going to come down, but first we must study the nail thoroughly.
Biden seen issuing crypto oversight executive order next week. As far as I can tell, this entire story is based on him sitting next to another person and making a coughing noise that kind of sounded like he said the word crypto. Crypto. And then they wrote an article about it.
Well, he's arming all of these various agencies to study crypto for upcoming heavier regulation.
Now remember, we've handpicked some stories the last 2 or 3 weeks, because this has been some saber rattling for the last 2 or 3 weeks, that show that the authorities actually have a surprising amount of an ability to track and have oversight in cryptocurrencies in general in terms of law enforcement. It's like, oh, you bought your drugs with crypto. Well, we can figure that out now.
Especially in the Great White North, which is exactly what Biden wants. Make no mistake, he wants those controls permanently, and he'll probably get them. And it turns out that he is not actually even the fastest horse out of the gate here.
The SEC ratchets up a crypto crackdown. So, it's funny. They asked for LBRY. Did this article mention the LBRY thing? They say that LBRY is a security. That came up in this too.
Axios really doesn't give you a ton of details, which I appreciate. They really only hit the high points. But no, this is mostly about
BlockFi.
It's about not just BlockFi, but crypto services that are kind of like blurring the lines. Well, especially if you do a coin to open up.
Yeah, that's what LBRY is. Like the SEC says it's a security, but it's based on some other stuff. As far as I can tell, LBRY was not trying to do anything, criminal or to run afoul of the SEC. But the SEC has drugged them through court and keeps delaying. They keep asking for delays. And LBRY has got their legal team, it seems like, in order. And it seems like they've got a pretty good case and they got it put together. And they're like, can we delay for another 8 weeks? It's just like, why? Are they waiting on the executive order? Why is this happening?
Here's the interesting thing about it. They say that if you put a coin out and do pre-mining to raise money, then it's a security because basically, it's like putting out a stock.
Yeah.
Well, Ethereum did that. And the previous crypto person that weighed in on that was like, I think it's okay for Ethereum versus all these other ones because they have proof of work. But Ethereum 2 doesn't have proof of work.
Not anymore.
So
protocol. Yeah. Do you think maybe that's just another form of regulatory capture where the cable industry built their business around rebroadcasting stuff that you get over the air on a wire? But in the case of Arrow, that's no longer allowed. Regulatory capture.
Similar to that, yeah. I'd say probably a lot of those people are invested in Ethereum too.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
The aforementioned mistrust and corruption.
Yeah.
And trust is an interesting word because I don't know where to put mine. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't trust any of it. Who knows what's real and what's for sale these days? No one. And we're going to just keep seeing more and more of this, and who knows what the truth is.
U.S. agencies say Russian hackers compromised defense contractors. Kremlin-based cyber attacks lurked in the networks for months, obtaining sensitive documents related to weapons infrastructure development. Yeah.
Is it hard to believe that the Russians would do this?
No.
Is it hard to believe that we would false flag it? No.
Yeah. Well, and they've been talking about Russian hackers for a couple different countries, but it's like, then if you read the articles, it's like, well, we're not sure it's Russia.
It's always Russian linked.
Yeah. So it's like, well, is that just someone who's capitalizing on the panic everyone has right now and just messing with stuff? But
we've seen multiple times in the past where China and Russia will try to cosplay as one another, or it could be even deeper than that. It could be somebody else cosplaying as China, cosplaying as Russia.
Right. It's just 4chan all the way down.
And sometimes these things aren't even really sensitive. It's like, oh, they got the building schematics for the bathrooms at the new guard shack outside the Pentagon.
These aren't ADA compliant.
Do you think you get the same attaboy if you turn that into your supervisor?
Oh, yeah. You absolutely do, yeah.
That's probably why they do that.
Yeah.
Now, this might be the last time we discuss this one. I hope that it's not. I hope that we talk about a massive settlement in the future.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think it will be the last time.
Cole County prosecutor declines to charge Post-Dispatch reporter targeted by Parson. I was so outraged by this, I had to do a separate video on it, showing exactly what the guy did and going point by point.
You didn't take a hate nap?
I mean, it was just... Ugh. Now, the prosecutor here said, a misdemeanor definitely occurred, but we're not going to press charges. And I think the prosecutor said that to try to give the governor an out for, libel or defamation or something, because it was definitely a level of idiocy that can only be described as persecution.
But if you got that in a court, it's going to be embarrassing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is the real reason they did that. Yeah. Plus, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Yes. A blatant one. This whole thing was. You know what? The system they built that he discovered in the first place, a waste of taxpayer dollars. And then everything after that. It's just a snowball.
Yeah.
Incompetence all the way down. Except for the journalist.
Yeah.
Who was actually investigating.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Imagine we have a journalist that's actually investigating on his own, and this happens. And that's why we are where we are.
They're definitely not going to make that mistake again. So might as well sell it on the open market.
Sell it to Russia.
Yeah. It's no wonder this keeps happening.
And when it comes to selling your hacks, this gentleman was quite successful. Although you could argue that he went a little too far and took something that was anti-consumer and made it a little bit more anti-consumer, maybe?
Yeah. Nintendo enemy Bowser scores 3-year prison sentence for selling Switch hacks. This is the Team Executor stuff. This is the federal case. They settled the federal case is wrapped up. $2.5 million, I think, in restitution and 3 years prison term. But Nintendo also had a civil case against him.
Wow.
That's generally frowned upon. You're not supposed to do federal and civil at the same time, unless, I guess, you're Nintendo. But
they got to make a picture of this guy so everyone knows. Don't mess with them.
And the civil case was another $7 million or so. So this guy's out about $10 million in restitution, all in.
And it's hilarious that this came down when it does. And I'm going to do what Wendell usually does here and give you some foreshadowing. Stick around. I don't even remember which one it's in. But you will find out that the thing that this guy was allowing you to do is something that Nintendo would sell you, but not anymore.
Yeah, it's this is really uncalled for. This level of intellectual property control we must fight back against it, because the term of copyright is just so absurd these days, especially compared to a patent.
The media hellscape we find ourselves in.
Yeah, Nintendo kind of has pushed me out entirely.
Yeah.
I don't really have any interest. They have some good stuff, obviously, but I'm willing to live without it.
I definitely enjoyed some Nintendo titles, but this is so beyond the pale that it's just not acceptable.
Of course, people in the comments are going to point out how the game companies that we still patronize are just as bad.
If not worse.
I guess we are kind of picking our fights there. But hey, give up as much as you can, right? Hurt them as much as you can. Now this one, this sounds like a pretty amazing thing, I guess, but I can't help but think back to those Ukrainian/Russian/Chinese hackers who turned off the heat in several buildings. And then I think about my smartphone and how secure I think that is. And then I look at this, and it seems like an accident waiting to happen, right? Well, not an accident, a tragedy.
The FDA clears the first smartphone app for insulin delivery. The T-Slim X2 insulin pump users can use the app to program doses rather than the pump itself. Definitely not for people that have the Pegasus spyware installed on their phone.
And by the way, you don't know if you have the Pegasus spyware installed on your phone. Yeah. Or your kid gets a hold of your phone, your toddler, and it's just and they're like, oh, I'm sleepy. But I guess that does save you. It's probably a hassle to deal with all that stuff. El Salvador, we all know, is it's branching out, leaving the comfort of the central banking controlled oligarchy.
And they do not like that.
Oh boy, do they not like that.
The last chapter of this has not been written. There's going to be some sort of incredible disaster.
No, but I have so much respect for this guy based on his reaction.
CoinDesk has the article, Bipartisan Senate proposal raises the alarm over El Salvador's Bitcoin adoption. And then the very last line of this article.
But I went ahead and added another headline.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Hill, the response is El Salvador leader tells, hey, boomer, U.S. senators to stand down over Bitcoin adoption. It's you can't control the adoption of money. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, his quote was a little bit more than that, but it was basically hey, this is my country. You don't get to make these decisions. But oh boy, are they going to try.
Yeah.
And one threat that they just barely exposed the very tip of there was pulling away all of the central banking oligarchy from him if he continues down this path. Cutting him off completely. Basically what they're threatening to do to Putin for invading another country.
Yeah.
So invading another country, accepting Bitcoin, those are on the same level. Same level of terrorism.
Even though we can track them. So, like, all the arguments about the bad things you can do, all it takes is one Walmart gift card.
It's not about that. It's about this is a kind of currency that is more advantageous in almost every way to their version of the currency.
Yeah.
And you cannot have that in the public eye. You just can't have it. Might have to go to war with El Salvador.
How many fronts can we have war on this time?
No, I'm pretty sure it won't be war. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be United Fruit Company. They're going to be United Fruit Companied.
Oh yeah, there'll be a revolution. A fiat currency revolution. That's the saddest revolution.
Yeah. Thanks, Chiquita.
We are in the saddest reality.
Well, let me say, as someone who drives a car that sits very, very low to the ground, this is an important theme for me.
Yeah, this is a great story.
My God, those truck headlights. When they're above you, it is crazy.
U.S. will finally allow adaptive beam headlights on new cars. The technology has been deployed in Europe and Japan for some years now. So basically, the car knows if there's an oncoming car, it just deals with it.
Which we, like, as someone who lives in the country, too, like, you're driving on those little tiny country roads, you come around a corner and someone has their brights on. Oh, that is so awful. Even in a not low-to-the-ground car.
I imagine those will be very expensive to replace, and headlights are the kind of thing that you always have to deal with unless you're Krista.
Yeah, well, I still haven't dealt with mine on my other car.
That's what, 2 years and a half?
Yeah, I don't drive
Maybe
it very
3?
often, though. I don't drive it.
I only drive during the day.
I kind of do. I'm like an old lady when I drive that car.
You're lucky Kentucky is a little bit backwards and we don't do the inspections.
Yeah.
Because you get hurt. Oh, and you're lucky that that's not on the blockchain yet.
Oh, yeah.
Your headlight being out would be on the blockchain.
My car is so old that won't be a concern, but whenever that car finally kicks the bucket and I have to get a new one, that's going to suck.
If we're still doing this, I can't wait for the stories like, Parson didn't change their headlight and it invalidated the warranty on their transaxle or whatever.
Cancel their insurance because it's not safe, right? Yeah. So we don't have to pay out on that. That was your fault.
I mean, I would be okay with that, but then they'll start canceling the warranty on like things that should still be under warranty, like the powertrain.
But no, it'll be like it's like those 80s movies where, they'll just say that the headlight was out or they'll break it after the fact or whatever and they'll take a picture of it.
Or it's like your brakes went out and it was broad daylight and they're like, well, the headlight was out, so we can't rule that out as what caused the problem.
Yeah, you never know right as your headlight goes out. You always see it later.
Your Honor, the deputy stopped me and my blockchain maintenance log clearly shows that my taillight was broken out after I stopped, and he said that I was cited for a broken taillight.
And then you get terrorism charges. You weren't allowed to look at that blockchain. Now, Krista, you say that you don't drive your car much, and we know this. You've said this a couple of times. I can vouch for it. You will drive them into the ground. And your previous car.
It was a nightmare. It was disgusting.
It was quite loud.
It was, yeah. It didn't have much of a muffler, so it was just,
Right.
You could hear it coming down the block.
Yeah, very loud.
One of the windows didn't work. The windshield wipers were all messed up. The paint was peeling off of it.
And not a fun kind of loud either.
No, it was just like, wow, that car's really ghetto.
Just a horrible loud. And you're lucky that you don't have that car anymore, and you're lucky you don't need to go to New York.
New York is now using cameras with microphones to ticket loud cars.
So, kind of like the shot spotter mics, but way more sensitive, I guess.
This would be great because if you have a bunch of cars that are like loud and honking, the police can just start mailing them citations for every honk. That's surely not the dystopian future that we're headed toward.
Oh. Were you just waiting for somebody to latch onto that? I know what you're doing. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Do you remember, though, there's another side to that. And personally, I hate, like, when you see a little Subaru with the coffee can muffler.
Yeah.
That's pathetic. But there was a viral video a while back where in this town somewhere, they were putting whistlers on the mufflers, and they're interviewing people, and the guy's, like, imitating it, and he's just like, woo, woo, woo. You gotta check out that video. I don't know what it's called. But people will put items on their car to make them obnoxiously loud.
Maybe that's what this is trying to get at. But
No,
it's going to
it's-
capture
nah,
people like me.
It's New York. It's going to capture everything that's not an electric vehicle.
It's going to capture money. That's revenue generation. Also, do you know Mayor Pete is the transportation secretary or whatever now? Do you know what his plan is to fight inequality? Speed cameras, traffic cameras. Because a cop could be racist, but a traffic camera can't.
I'm pretty sure we've done a lot of stories about cameras actually being a little bit racist.
Literally more racist than people, right?
Yeah.
Although they're not recognizing faces, they're just looking at license plates.
Well,
I mean, it's a terrible idea. I'm not defending it. It's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. But, whatever. Apple and Google, they get sued all the time. Different country every week. This week it's the Netherlands.
Apple and Google face a Netherlands class action lawsuit. Why? Because developers are forced to endure fees that the Netherlands think maybe are a little excessive. That 30%,
Hard to argue with that. Not much new information there. It's basically the same argument everybody else makes. Because
is there a reason they use this image on this article? I was thinking about that earlier.
I imagine this is some sort of iconic book.
Children's story that somehow has to deal with the subject matter. I don't.
This
If you know what this book is, tell us.
This guy has 5 names.
Van de Holst.
That's excessive.
The law offices of W.G. Van de Holst.
I wouldn't get legal advice from a man dressed like that.
No.
And France also attacking Google. Again, it's nothing new. It's the same old argument.
TechCrunch, France's privacy watchdog, the latest to find Google's analytics breaches GDPR. Again, we see the pattern that we've pointed out before. Google pops up and says, the law says this. We think that this is a very clever loophole around that wording. And the court says, no, the spirit, like any human being could read this law and understand not to be tracked. You know, you've done a clever loophole here, but you're still tracking an individual. So we're just going to ban Google Analytics. This is probably a preview for what's going to happen in the European Union at large.
And they take the lawsuit and they stretch it out and they appeal.
Yeah.
And they get all that they can out of that horrible policy as long as they can. And when they can't anymore, they move on to the next thing, which they've already prepared. Because they knew this was going to happen.
We have a story on that in the business section.
Yeah. And, of course, the central bankers, as I mentioned earlier, not fans of cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. And so any chance they have, they will malign it.
Cryptocurrency is akin to a Ponzi scheme and is banning it is perhaps the most advisable choice, it says India's central bank. The headline's kind of inflammatory here. If you actually read what they're saying in India, they're saying that a lot of the time it's a Ponzi scheme. It could have some utility. It could be useful for some reasons that they outline in terms of like tracking and cutting down on fraud and, you know, having an immutable record of where the money went and that kind of thing. But most of the time, probably fraud.
I mean, they probably could have just replaced that with NFTs, right?
Yeah, the article or the way that it's written, it really comes right up to suggesting that the government just control some kind of blockchain technology. That's a different blockchain technology for the citizens of India to protect them. Which there's kind of a lot of corruption.
Not in the Modi administration. Now, this story is 3 days old when we're filming this. It'll be more than that by the time you see it. And already it's moved so far beyond this.
Yeah.
But we'll cover it anyway because it's important to know the steps that led up to what's coming.
Yeah, CNET's talking about this Ukraine's military and banks have been hit by an apparent DDoS cyber attack. The outages come amid tension. Yeah, a lot of tension.
Yeah. I'm kind of ready for the tension to be over. I need them to shit or get off the pot.
Oh, well, today I've seen, I mean, you can't verify any of it, right? But
It's hard to, yeah.
A couple of screenshots of shelling on the border. Apparently, a lot of the separatists in Donbass are pulling into Russia because they are the Russian part of that. That's the whole thing, is the part of Ukraine with Russian people in it that don't want to be in Ukraine, supposedly. Who knows?
Yeah, I can't follow it very well. I'm not versed on how all that went down.
Well, the good news, Krista, is you'll get a bunch of YouTube comments from people who also don't know anything about it. But they will speak with absolute authority and explain it to you, and they'll all contradict one another. It's a beautiful world that we're living in.
Sucks to live there right now, I'm sure.
Where
Either way.
Where we can all get together on YouTube and be friends.
Oh.
Friends. Fans in China complain of censorship after LGBTQ plotline has been axed.
That's kind of a major thing to get rid of, right?
I didn't remember. I wasn't a big Friends watcher, but after I read the story, I was like, oh, I kind of do remember that. So it turns out that
Ross's ex-wife.
this guy's ex-wife in the show, who is one of these girls, is a lesbian. And that was the funny thing. Is like he's such a loser that she left him and left men entirely. You know, like.
But she was pregnant when she left, I think.
Oh, was it his kid?
It was his kid.
Wow.
So it's a major plot line because the kid shows up in the show.
And that whole episode, if I remember correctly, like 80% of the jokes were Ross is a loser because his wife, like he turned her off of men.
It wasn't that funny, but it is kind of hard to cut around it because it's a huge part of multiple episodes.
So a lot of people in Hong Kong are saying like, this is too much. I'm not going to watch this anymore. But like,
I mean, there's better TV now, I think.
if they're triggered by censorship, is this really the first thing they've noticed?
Yeah. This episode's supposed to be 30 minutes long and it's only 10 minutes. I don't understand.
They said to themselves, you know what? I feel like I'm anti-authority now. I want to fight the system. I'm going to go watch Fight Club. The joke is they censored that too.
Well, they uncensored it when people got angry. Maybe they'll do that here too.
And people noticed. It's the censorship that you don't notice that's the most insidious.
We need to come up with a catchy phrase for like bring back the lesbian or whatever, you know, so they can put it on signs and stuff. Don't do that, you'll get arrested. Moving on to social media, Meta is the big story, and once again this week we have lots of Meta stories, and I think it's important to point out every time that we do a big string of Meta stories, because the news, I mean everybody is just pounding out story after story. It doesn't exist. There is no metaverse. They have 2 apps. They don't really do much of anything. And yet, it's all we can ever talk about.
Why you can't have legs in virtual reality yet. It's this same picture.
I saw a version of this photo that the caption was, when you die in the metaverse, you die in real life.
It's like all these corporate videos. Yeah, just.
Kill me.
Yeah. We got to get the green screen up and running so that we can do dystopian versions of these backgrounds where it's just.
And we got to get some green pants so that we can.
Yeah, we can be in the metaverse. Yeah. That's what chat wants.
So the answer, if you look at all this text. Look at all this text. The answer is there are no sensors on your legs. It's the most obvious thing in the world.
Oh,
I love this one.
Another great photo. Man, he is just uniquely not photogenic.
So here's my theory about this, right? I think that Zuckerberg, up until this point, has not met with a lot of controversy, right? I mean, sure, people have attacked him for various things, being a horrible person and spying and all that stuff. But I think he could cognitive dissonance that away. But now that Facebook is starting to lose people, and he sees what's going to happen eventually, I think he's kind of losing it.
Yeah.
I think he's breaking up a little bit. And this is certainly evidence, I would say. Yeah.
Zuckerberg has coldly explained to Facebook staff that they are now to be known as Metamates.
He thinks he's Caesar, but he's really just Nero. He's playing his fiddle.
Like if I were a Metamate, like I'm not advocating for self-harm, but I mean it's just I would, it's like, oh, you're a Metamate now, and it's like, do I still feel? Is this real? Am I dreaming? What? Wake up!
If you work at Facebook, you already have natural mental defenses against being a horrible person, so I don't think this would affect them as much. You have the reptile gene, enough of it. I guess it's a play on shipmates, is what some people are explaining.
And it's alliteration, I guess, but it's why? Why are we wasting time on this?
So now they also had these like guiding principles at Facebook. All of those have now been revised, and it seems like that was all just his idea, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like Google when they got rid of "Don't be evil," I guess, because now he's saying they need to be meaner to their users. Be open. That's gone. Now we live in the future. Isn't that technically impossible?
Now is always the future. The future is always the future.
Every picture of you is a picture of you when you were younger.
Be direct and respect your colleagues is gone, and now changing to be open, which we just got rid of, which doesn't make much sense. And you're not supposed to nice yourself to death. Nice yourself to death.
What is he responding to? Or is he just unhinged?
I think I saw this in an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. It was the one when Data built his daughter, and something was not stable with her positronic matrix, and this was kind of like the beginning of that.
Did they airlock her immediately? Because that's what needs to happen here.
Data tried real hard to save her, but she didn't make it.
Well, the metaverse barely exists. That doesn't stop the big corporations from flooding into it, because let's be honest, you don't really have to invest a lot, right? To get a place in the metaverse, it's not any real thing, so yeah, just throw something up.
JPMorgan bets the metaverse is a $1 trillion yearly opportunity as it becomes the first bank to open in virtual world. The $1 trillion bet is really talking about NFTs and some other things, it turns out, but okay.
What can you do at JPMorgan in the metaverse? Well, not much, but there's a tiger.
Okay. Can you even pet it?
Kind of a low poly tiger, if we're going to be honest.
I'm kind of reminded of when CNET thought that virtual reality was going to do some amazing things in like the late 90s. And we had programs like Virtus VR. Yeah, it didn't work out.
Let's hope that this doesn't either. But this has a lot of momentum behind it and a lot of money.
This picture about the facial recognition technology.
Could they have picked a worst photo?
Or better, depending on what the algorithm's looking for.
Well, you know, this guy might be reprehensible in other ways, but he's on the side of the light here because he's trying to stop them from doing what we all know they're doing, which is pulling all of our facial data off of social media and using it against us.
Texas sues Meta saying that it misused facial recognition data. Yes, it did. But, meh.
So you could tag people in images, and when you tagged people in images against their will, maybe, then it would store that and remember who that is and build the network knowing who everyone is, and then it could tag those people on its own later on. What a great feature. Turns out not legal, probably. Probably not.
But it's okay when California sells the DMV database to a company for purposes.
Well, they're on the forces of good. Now, Emily Baker White is another one I think it's important to point out. Couldn't write her way out of a paper bag. And she points out that she used to work for Facebook and some other giant tech company. And
this was a lot of words that could have been one paragraph.
And I'm guessing that she was bad at those jobs, and that's how she ended up writing garbage clickbait for BuzzFeed. Because this is a non-story.
Meta wouldn't tell us how it enforces the rules in VR, so we ran a test to find out. So basically, they created a virtual world that was blocked on the regular Facebook, like Facebook group thing.
Well, they chose phrases that are, like very incendiary. As you can see here, we won't actually say them because they'll get us banned.
Yeah. And then they flagged it, and then they got a review. They actually flagged it with multiple accounts, and then they got a review, and the review said this is completely fine. But if these things had been flagged in the non-metaverse version of this, it's taken down. And then when they did the story, it said, oops, somebody inside, and then they took it down.
But here's the thing. This was an unpublished, non-public meta world. You couldn't stumble into this. In total, in its entire existence, it had 4 total users visited. They were all BuzzFeed employees. So obviously, somebody got the flag. How many flags a day do you think they're dealing with?
3.
How many flags an hour?
Oh.
Yeah.
Millions.
And they looked at it and they were like, okay, 4 users, unpublished. It's got some buzzwords in it. Next.
Yeah.
So they contacted the PR department. And they're like, we're BuzzFeed and we need a headline. I gave it to them.
Yeah.
I've been hearing great things about this new Playboy Secret series. Have you guys watched that at all? I'm a little bit hyped for that. It sounds like there is some dark stuff that came out of that grotto. But Playboy actually still exists. I don't think they have a, do they have a magazine.
Film at 11. No,
I think the magazine might be gone. They point out in this article that you guys read it. I can't ask you that. The number one thing that Playboy can sell is the trademark on this bunny.
Yeah.
That's their most valuable asset.
I could see that because that's always like, it's on people's trucks, or you get the belly piercing with it,
Or
while you're
the-
in Gatlinburg.
Tanning, girls who tan.
Yeah.
They always get the little bunny there.
I don't know if that's still a thing, but I think it was very popular, like in the white trash community in the early 2000s.
Wow, Krista.
I'm just saying.
Way to judge several of my past sexual partners. But
Way to judge almost everyone I grew up with. Everyone had the Playboy bunny.
But Playboy is still trying to expand, I suppose, and go into new things, which can only mean one thing, right?
Playboy wants to build a new mansion in where, you guessed it, the metaverse.
Wow, that is just going to be a cesspool of horrible stuff.
The other quote from this is, one of our biggest assets is that we've got like 12 million items in our catalog that we can sell as NFTs.
Now, well, it says, here's the question. It says they have already created thousands of NFTs based on the bunny logo. What's the difference between all the thousands of them?
All just different colors,
I guess.
slightly different RGB values.
Also, who knew this? They have a platform called Centerfold that is an OnlyFans type of thing.
Didn't know that.
I don't think anybody did.
I wonder if the cut is better or if it's worse.
Can you imagine if they had built that, like been the first to build that, and had the vision to put that together? That would have been just something crazy.
Maybe, yeah. And the YouTube Olympics, I've watched a little bit of Olympics, but it's hard to watch them on YouTube, honestly, because they don't give you the whole thing. You
Yeah,
just-
they need to make playlists and not just
Yeah.
individual, like, here's one person skating. Oh, now here's a video of curling. It's like, well, I want to watch the whole skating segment.
yeah. Well, they won't show you the whole event either.
The reason
Yeah.
is because they want you to search endlessly and watch a million things that are not actually what you want before finding what you actually want.
Well, they want
I'll
you
just
to go
give
to
up.
they want you to go to their website and log in through your cable provider, which is, I mean, come on, really?
Not
The,
doing
the
it.
maximum ad revenue is to frustrate you up to the point just before you just give up and turn it off.
And the algorithm, when you search for something and it's like, well, I don't have a lot of that, but I've got something else I bet you'll like, it makes some choices that people don't like when it comes to China.
Wired points out that the Olympic highlights on this site are riddled with propaganda. The platform search engine is funneling sports fans into watching political content about the thing.
Now, you might think that's pro-China propaganda, but actually it sounds like it's pretty much 50-50. If you'll recall, this country is spending tax dollars to create anti-China propaganda. And I'm sure
To
there's a lot of that.
reimburse.
Come on. They're basically, commissioning it.
I was surprised by that, yes. Sometimes it has to be laundered through a Canadian company, though. We covered that last week.
Corruption in Canada? What? And Twitter, we all know that Twitter has bots. Most of the bots are horrible and you don't want them. Once in a while, someone will make a bot that kind of does something useful, I guess, but really it's also just annoying and in the way. But according to Twitter, they can separate the good from the bad.
Twitter officially launches labels to identify the quote-unquote good bots.
How does the Elon Musk bot that tracks his flights, how do they classify that one?
I don't think they've weighed in on that, but I think we could all guess. I drank too fast. So yeah, you have to go through a weather bot. Do we really need that?
Or what about the bot that's like saved you a click or whatever, where it'll clickbait certain headlines that show up on Twitter?
Although that could be a spoiler, right?
I guess, but why would you follow that account if you didn't care, or if you did care about spoilers?
What if I never miss a story by Kyle Wiggers and I like it when it's not spoiled for me? Then it's a bad bot.
Then don't follow it.
I don't follow anybody on Twitter.
You can mute it now, too, so to prevent the Twitter algorithm from
Even showing
you.
it to you.
Well, that's a good thing, I suppose, but I still don't think that social media is the proper way to consume any of that. News does not belong on social media. And it turns out I'm not alone in thinking that.
Researchers warn that social media may be quote-unquote fundamentally at odds with science. Well, yeah.
Does that surprise anybody? I mean, it's just based on engagement because that's what gets them the most money. I don't.
The whole thing I could think of while I was reading this was what you're describing is the lack of critical reasoning facilities. Like, the whole problem is nobody has critical reasoning facilities because it's not taught.
The only thing I could think of while reading this was the phrase, "the science has changed."
But the science is not supposed to change like that.
Oh, are you saying that that's maybe another way of saying we were wrong? And yet no one will ever say they were wrong, will they?
I like to think sometimes we say idiotic things, but in the face of more evidence, I will totally change my mind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Most people won't do that. It's like, I didn't know now what I know then.
Most people in power won't do that.
Yeah. It's very sad.
There's a lot of sadness.
All right, what do we got for tomorrow?
Business and
there's more meta stories in the business section.
Probably,
it's weird.
It's probably robot. Yeah. Probably robot. I pre-sorted this week.
Woo! All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
I'm out of my delicious Thai iced tea.
Oh, I saw you had that when I came in, and I was like, ooh, I should go to the Thai restaurant and get an iced tea.
We're going to leave that in?
Yes.
Okay, bye. Hello, and welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today is February 23rd, and we're doing business and robot information today.
And it's brought to you by Linode.
First story this week.
And a lot of you have already pointed this out and tweeted to us and posted on all of our various things. Yes, we are aware that Linode is being bought out. We're not sure exactly what that means yet.
Yeah.
We're not in the inner circle.
They didn't run this past us when they did it. I don't know why.
They didn't ask our opinion on this.
Almost $1 billion.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have anything like this. They want to get into this whole industry. So
I've certainly noticed Akamai trying to do Linode things in the past, but
now, one thing about Linode, they have, from what we've heard from our people, most people are happy with it.
yeah.
The most complaints I've heard about Linode are they won't take cryptocurrency as payment, and they won't take my credit card from the Czech Republic or wherever.
It turns out that there's a secret blacklist of credit cards that PayPal mostly maintains, and if you're on that blacklist, even though it's not PayPal necessarily, they won't take a credit card.
So we've always been very happy that it seems like they're not monsters. Now, will this change them into monsters? We don't know, but we'll try to keep an eye on it.
Akamai to acquire Linode to provide businesses with a developer-friendly and massively distributed platform to build, run, and secure applications. Well, we've been doing that with Linode since they were a wee tiny company, the better part of a decade, in fact, that I've been using Linode anyway.
They've sponsored our Minecraft server.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, a Minecraft server that's amazing and full of people dumping thousands of hours into Minecraft. The save file for it is like 35 gigabytes.
Yeah, people were like, can we get a copy of the world? And I was like, ooh.
I mean, that's fine. It's just a 35 gig file.
It's going to be huge.
I just watched that video the other day, and I was astonished by that last one.
The one
egg
thing,
the underwater. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
That's crazy.
That's the weirdest build I've ever seen that anyone has done on our server, but also that I've seen in any other server I've been on.
Now, we know that there's something you can do to sort of template that stuff before you start building, even on the server. Do you think he did that, or was that all free?
I kind of wonder if it was free, because some of the other people who've talked about how they did their builds, like they showed the tools and how they used to map out the blocks, but we didn't get anything like that for his submission.
Yeah, and it was all asymmetric. So
yeah, like even each of the holes, when I was looking at it, they're not exactly uniform. So I think it was all organically done by hand.
If you haven't checked out that video yet, that is an amazing Minecraft build.
There's also a forum thread if you want to look at pictures too.
It's the last one, but they're all impressive.
Yeah.
But the last one really stood out.
It was hard to judge this year. There were a few that just barely got edged out because they were all really
But
great.
was there any question in your mind that was number one?
Yeah, I think that was number one from the start. There were some other contenders, but I think that was always going to be number one.
You know what we should do with that Minecraft build? We should turn it into an NFT.
No, it's some of the top prize winners on the Minecraft side, somebody's computer died or whatever, like last year, and so some of the winners have pooled their prizes into a thing, and so we're sending that to somebody else for the prize, and it's basically a whole machine.
The Minecraft server is so socialist.
It really is. I love it.
There's a lot of heartwarming stuff that comes
Yeah.
out.
It is
And-
kind of heartwarming.
There's a lot of like group builds too. Like, hey, do you need certain kinds of blocks? Come to this coordinate, and someone will have built like a little shrine where you can go pick it up out of a chest.
And they'll over-engineer the shrine
Yeah.
just to improve your experience as you come there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you clip through the ground, there's just this elaborate machine that's stuffing the chests from below. Or
Yeah.
something.
And then there's like a rail system to get to that area in case you're wanting to get from the spawn.
Linode made all that possible, so check out that coupon.
Now, in a place like the Level 1 Minecraft server, something like an NFT might not be a terrible thing because it's such a wholesome place. You know, people could trade them, they could be happy, they might actually enjoy them. A place that's not as wholesome and won't lead to good outcomes,
Decidedly.
the New York Stock Exchange.
Fast Company reports the New York Stock Exchange filed for a trademark for an NFT marketplace. It's going to compete against the likes of OpenSea. This is the darkest timeline.
I'm so tired of NFT stories.
I mean, the New York, there's, if anything, you know, like Reddit Wall Street Bets is exposing the level of corruption that exists in and around the machinery in the whole stock system.
Corruption in the stock market, you say? Oh no.
Yeah.
We haven't known about that for 40 years. But yeah, it's, well, I mean, the central banks are much worse. Reddit should talk about that. But it's coming, and oh boy, do we not want it. No one wants it. Oh, it's terrible. But some things that companies, especially big companies, do want are other chip companies. They just want to gobble them up because everybody knows that chips are the hottest thing in the world right now.
Intel to buy Tower Semiconductor for $5.4 billion. This is going to give Intel additional capacity for what they call like fab partners. Like if you partner with Intel to have them make your stuff, it's going to be made possibly but by Tower Semiconductor. So Intel's bringing a lot of their intellectual property, and Tower Semiconductor is bringing their facilities, which I guess Intel's, you know, this is not supposed to close for a year, but Intel in some of their like investor briefing and like stockholder briefings acts as though they're getting started with this right away.
Yeah, they already were in the building
Yeah.
working with the engineers. It's like, oh no, this is definitely going to happen.
Yeah. So it's like it doesn't close for a year, but we're doing stuff right now. So
Now, if you're a plucky politician and you want to get some concessions from Intel, threaten that. But they're not the only one. It turns out all the big tech companies are trying to gobble up other companies. In a lot of ways, they're getting smacked down, but this one will probably be okay.
Yeah. AMD has finally closed its Xilinx deal. First product's expected in 2023. AMD's been working on this for a year and a half, 2 years, at least a year. It feels like a very long time. These are the folks that make FPGAs, and they have there's a lot of synergy opportunity here for AMD doing their thing and Xilinx doing their thing for combined products, and the innovation that comes with combining apples and oranges type of semiconductors.
Now, I feel like we can sort of pat ourselves on the shoulders here because we were definitely one of the voices that were saying, this is stupid and we shouldn't be doing it. Now, I didn't stop anybody from trying, but the good news is they failed spectacularly. Why? Because it was stupid and they shouldn't have been doing it.
How SoftBank's costly bet on the Internet of Things backfired at ARM. Chip designer changes strategy ahead of the planned IPO with a renewed focus on servers. ARM's like, we're everywhere. We want to be in everything. And it's like, do you really want to be in a Furby? I mean...
Well, I think that what happened
That's probably
was,
like the least horrifying option. That's scary to think about.
I think people just said, we don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't need these devices.
It's just going to
And
break in a few years, and then I'm going to
remember-
have to try to replace it.
Remember the stats on Alexa?
Yeah.
And people would buy Alexa and use it for 2 months and then never turn it on again.
Yeah.
Because it's stupid.
What a waste of materials.
Yeah, those chips, those valuable chips,
Yeah,
disgusting.
they just go sit in a landfill.
This is one of the stories that should be the source of the title for this week, although there's maybe not. There's another story that's really good later.
Yeah,
The phrase they used is good.
Dino Babies is a hell of a buzzword, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of contradictory.
Yeah.
I guess you're trying to point them out as old but immature.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. You're definitely trying to dehumanize here.
IBM sued for age discrimination. Now, this is a follow-up to a follow-up to a follow-up to a thing that's been in a slow-moving train wreck for a number of years that we've covered. But the bombs that are dropping from the lawsuit, there's some emails. There's some really, really kind of damning emails.
Incendiary, you would even say.
And this case is not going to go well for IBM. Oh, Lord.
egregious age discrimination, and it's hard for them to dispute it. Now, in terms of legality, I think some of this stuff is okay in a lot of places, but not everywhere that IBM operates.
Yeah.
So geographically, they could get hit really hard in some places for this.
Emails show executives labeling older employees dino babies who need to be extinct.
Which sounds to me like a death threat.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
These old dino babies don't have any idea what they're doing.
Especially if in the past 2 years, because the dino babies would be more vulnerable than everybody else.
Yeah.
Wonder if that'll come into play.
I feel like in the tech industry, when you have a dino baby in a position like that, there's a little bit of fear to get rid of them because they know where the bodies are buried usually.
Yeah.
But kind of belittling them, that seems like maybe a mistake.
And they know how to fix the things that the other people might not.
Yeah.
The things that get fixed in ways that are completely counter to reason and logic.
Yeah.
Because you have some horrible thing at IBM that's been built.
And they know the reason that it was built that way and how to fix it.
Only the dinosaurs know. Plus, after they're dead, you can use their bodies for fuel.
The other thing that IBM is going to fail on here is they're going to say that this part of the workforce didn't have the skills that we needed because things are evolving, blah, blah, blah. But they could retrain, and they declined to retrain. So they still needed the positions filled. They weren't willing to do any retraining or to work with the old employees, or even some of the old employees that were willing to retrain on their own.
Well, you know who has also not been willing to retrain a lot? The Linux community. They fight so hard to not have new video stuff. But Gabe Newell, the god among men, is changing all that with the Steam Deck. And because he's revolutionizing it, the big companies who have ignored it up until now are saying, maybe we should look into this.
Intel Thread Director is headed to Linux for a major boost in Alder Lake performance. So right now, with Alder Lake on Linux, they basically co-opted the structures that have to do with Turbo Boost Max 3, which doesn't work on an i5 if you have an i5. But for the i9, not all motherboards report the ACPI tables for that correctly. So this is a thing that's going to be completely overhauling the way that works, because otherwise you're not really getting all your performance out of Alder Lake on Intel, or the performance is inconsistent on Linux for Alder Lake. So it's very weird.
But they're going to fix it. And another thing that Intel is going to do for you, and oh boy, were they careful in this article to be like, now this is not going to destroy the climate. It's not going to waste chips. It's not going to do that.
I don't know.
Definitely not going to do that, but we're making a Bitcoin ASIC. Now wait, no. It's not going to use chips, I promise.
Intel to enter Bitcoin mining market with energy-efficient hardware. The goal is to create the most energy-efficient blockchain mining ASIC with minimal impact on chip supplies.
Minimal doesn't mean no, correct?
So maybe we'll have video cards after all?
I guess it would, but if this is a super hot item, will they just make this instead of video cards? I guess because the other company makes most of the video cards, then maybe that'd be good for us, right?
Yeah.
And we have seen Microsoft go back and forth on this over and over and over. This is not new to Windows 11.
No.
But it does seem like it's getting progressively more and more severe.
You'll need a Microsoft account to set up future versions of Windows 11 Pro. Like the ARM thing with the Internet of Things thing, this is stupid. The algorithm demands that you make your thing as awful as possible up to, but just before the point that everybody gives up in horrible frustration. Why? Because that'll drive your analytics. Think of the analytics numbers. It's like so many people have signed up for Bing or Microsoft or whatever. We've captured so many users. We're getting so much good traction of new users. Microsoft can go to shareholders and say, look, people love our products because they're signing up. They're literally held hostage. You have no choice.
They just put duct tape over your mouth and they ask you questions and you're,
And then they interpret them however they want.
Yeah.
Oh, you love it, huh? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. You would like more Microsoft accounts? Well, let's sign you up for another one.
Yeah.
So they point out the thing to do is create a throwaway Microsoft account. Go ahead and do that now. And sign up with that, and then create a local account and never look at that Microsoft account again.
Again, that still juices their analytics numbers. So somebody that's looking at that dashboard somewhere is like, this was a very successful change. Look at the user engagement and participation that we had from this.
Also, I have the Xbox Game Pass because it's just such a deal that I can't pass it up. But as soon as you associate your account with that, because you have to, Windows is like, oh, let me just retroactively apply that to the entire operating system.
It's funny that you say that because I'm in the same problem, and I've noticed that the pop-ups for that are getting more weaselly and misleading. The most recent one was like, do you not want to not associate your Microsoft account with your login account? And it's like,
yes, no, maybe.
And then when you mouse over no, the button moves. What?
Yeah, it's just.
Now, if you did not watch Tuesday's program, please do so now. Please pause this and watch the Tuesday program because we discussed something about this, which was the team executor sentencing. The man got 3 years in prison. What did he do? He allowed you to run arbitrary software, whatever you wanted, on a Nintendo Switch. Now, there's obviously nefarious reasons to do that. Theft, whatever. But there are some places or some situations where maybe that's the only way you can get a certain Nintendo product because Nintendo, despite having this astonishing back catalog.
You own that device. You should be able to run whatever the heck you want on that device.
I bought Mario Brothers in what, 1985 or 6 or whatever? I should own it forever. But no, they want $13 annually for Super Mario Brothers. And it's not changing.
Nintendo is closing the 3DS and Wii U shops in 2023 and has, quote-unquote, no plans to offer classic content in other ways. They would like to drip feed you this via subscription.
Now, Nintendo, up until this article was posted on Tuesday, they had a section on their FAQ on their website that says, doesn't Nintendo have an obligation to preserve its classic games?
Deleted.
Then they had an explanation for that. That's gone.
Of course it's gone. You know what? I can still play the Oregon Trail for the Apple II on the Internet Archive. By gum, that's the way it'll be from now until the end of time.
The way it was meant to be experienced.
How has no one not remade the Oregon Trail as an open world survival game?
I think there are some indie, reimaginings of the Oregon Trail. There's one, I don't know if it ever came out, but somebody was doing like a cyberpunk film noir thing for the Oregon Trail.
That's not what I want.
No, that seemed amazing though. The trailer was incredible.
I want classic Oregon Trail.
Dysentery, poop in my pants,
first
crossing
person,
a river.
Yeah, first, but you got to manage the cart. That could be a great game.
You know what game that we played recently that gave me the Oregon Trail feels? Faster Than Light.
You played Faster Than Light recently?
Mm-hmm.
That game's got to be, 5-6 years old at this point?
Yeah. It feels like Oregon Trail.
That's a fantastic
But
game.
in space.
Yeah. Oregon Trail was kind of like the first roguelike, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, but it was good. It was good. It was simpler.
We had a single computer in my first grade classroom, and we all got to take turns playing Oregon Trail on
Oregon Trail and Shoplifter.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I tried introducing some people to Rogue after, that whole thing, and it was just eyes glazed over. It's like, this is not fun. I was like, this is an incredible amount of fun. It's like, no, let's go play Oregon Trail. All right. Sounds good.
Different things for different people. And Google is trying something a little different than what Apple did, but we don't know how different yet because we really don't know anything about it, except that they promise it won't be as bad as what Apple did. Even though a lot of people don't think what Apple did was bad, they think it was great because it hurt people like Google.
New York Times, Google plans privacy changes but promises not to be disruptive. There is the non-paywall version of this article was kind of long and didn't really have anything substantive. I didn't find any versions of this article that had anything other than Google saying maybe they're going to sandbox some applications. But there is some code changes to Android, especially in Android 13, that really support that. Android 13 looks like it's going to have full tilt virtualization. So you may actually be able to run applications on an Android device in little application sandboxes, which would be great. We've said that they should have done that for years. If you actually can run applications in sandboxes and there's not an API interface to do stuff, then that'll be good. Oh yeah, and our next stories, Android 13 virtualization hacks runs Windows and Doom in a VM on Android, so this is cool.
But here's the thing about this. This is not supposed to be available to you yet.
Yeah.
Some guy found it.
Yeah.
They are going to do everything they can to lock this out. Because that's not what they want this for.
Maybe. But
I guarantee it.
I think that if they're planning to use this for application sandboxing, that'd be great. It's like, yeah, run Facebook in it. I feel like I have to do this now with games. Like running Windows games in a Windows sandbox on my Linux machine through virtualization feels safer to me because Epic, we've got the Fortnite story later. It's like there's a reason Fortnite's not coming to Linux, and that's because it's doing stuff in the background to gather data. And on Linux, that would not fly, and it would be really easy to detect.
But everything you virtualize in Linux on your phone takes it from their view.
Yeah.
They're not going to allow that.
I think that Google has to allow that if they want to operate in the EU. I think that's their only move.
It'll take 6 years for that to happen.
Probably.
By then, we'll have a totally different kind of phone.
Yeah, maybe.
By then, we'll be raiding the wasteland for scrap metal.
Exactly. Phones will be religious items.
That phone has a copy of Wikipedia on it? Ah!
Or better yet,
You got any games on your phone?
what's
Shoplifters.
what's the name of the dungeon game?
Oh,
Pixel Dungeon?
Yeah.
Pixel Dungeon.
Yeah.
What would the last copy of Pixel Dungeon with a battery that still has 40% life left? Google is also offering some of their old technology for ancient and computers that you might have just thrown away. And certainly in these dark times of chip shortages, it's time to haul those things back out, right?
Google is bringing Chrome OS to PCs and Macs. So you can try this on a USB drive. It's in beta right now. Everything, blah, blah, blah. You should definitely check this out. And this is also going to be supported by Google Enterprise. So if you want to run Google in the enterprise, you can totally do this. Here's why I think this is brilliant. Microsoft is deprecating everything older than 8th gen Intel, and even some things that are newer because the person that built the computers is not going to provide a BIOS that enables TPM or that has reasonable defaults. So all of those people that have computers that are perfectly fine and reasonable that don't find Linux an option for whatever reason, they can install this and have something supported from Google. So it's I think that Microsoft has made an error here.
Or if you have, an older family member and they need a computer, but you just can't get decent computers anymore, and you're like, you know what? I've got an old laptop. Let me throw the Chrome OS on there. Get them on Facebook.
Yeah, that would be great. Probably less susceptible to malware than Windows 10 will be or is.
Well, here is a very damning expose.
This has been a saga. I've been watching this trend on Twitter on and off for like a week.
It is just an amazing amount of work and also just so many hate naps.
And they have responded to this, and I would say that everything they have responded with has been an absolute lie.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Because there's no defending this.
Yeah. Newegg apologized for well-documented customer service fails, says it has enacted better policies.
That's a lie.
Yeah. Steve from Gamers Nexus, oh man, I don't think they rolled a 1. Like, how do you roll less than you roll and the dice explode, putting your eye out with shrapnel? I mean, it's less than a 1 that they rolled.
So let's just do a quick recap here. They bought an open box motherboard, ended up not using it and not even touching it, sending it back. When they sent it back, the inspector said, this is horribly damaged. It's damaged beyond repair. You damaged this. And they said, we never opened it. You sold it to us damaged. And there was a big problem. And until they started making videos about it on YouTube, on a channel that has a lot of viewers, no one cared. After they did that, Newegg really started to
Suddenly
care.
they reached out, yeah.
Newegg sent them the motherboard back, and it had the RMA sticker on it, and it was returned to Gigabyte. I think it was a Gigabyte board. And Gigabyte said, yeah, the socket was damaged. And that was before they bought it.
So they didn't even open it between the Gigabyte return and the sale to Gamers Nexus.
Yeah.
And then Gamers Nexus also didn't open it and sent it back. And it's just hilarious that this garbage motherboard floated around all these different places. Nobody damaged it other than the original purchaser. And
who probably also didn't get their money back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that motherboard is just, every time it goes out, it was making Newegg $500. It's no wonder they didn't want to fix that.
So maybe stay away from the Newegg open box categories.
Yeah.
I love when something like that happens to Steve because he doesn't let go either. Like, he's flying out to headquarters, and I think right now he's camped out in their parking lot. Like, we can talk, but we're going to talk on camera. And so the executives are like,
please tell me he's not honking his horn. My God, that would be terrorism.
If that happens, I'll pay his bail. It's fine.
I don't get bail for that. That's a secret court. But you know what you don't get a secret court for? Literally working with terrorists.
Ericsson investigates in-house bribery scandal tied to ISIS.
I like that you said it like a question because it does kind of feel that way when you read the headline.
So Ericsson, they want to do business in Iraq, and it turns out to do business in Iraq, you gotta
talk to them.
Gotta grease some palms. Was that wrong? Should we not have done that?
Well, when you grease palms, and then that grease might run into a slush fund that buys weapons or bombs.
How do we do business in Iraq? We were just there.
Let's face it, though, all of the Ericsson tax dollars that go to the Western countries are also used to buy bombs.
I feel like if you're a company and you're doing business in Iraq, it's like the situation that I get in when like my hard drives are full and I go to the drawer of old hard drives and it's like, I could use this 2 terabyte hard drive for a little while. Meanwhile, there's like a petabyte of space over here, and it's like, do I really need another 2 terabytes of space? Is it worth the hassle of getting this drive out and hooking it up? And then it's basically a thimble full of information at this point. Why am I even bothering with that? It's kind of like Iraq. It's like, how much business can there really be in Iraq? Is that really worth bothering with?
I think it is, yeah, because a market that's untapped like that, you get immediately massive growth. And then those people are also going to be addicted to your product right away because you know you have an addictive product. Yeah, and they're going to start running all their communication through it. They're going to start consuming all their media through it. They're going to start putting their payments through it.
There's no laws to stop how extensively we exploit that.
Fantastic. You definitely want that. I'm not sure that I want this though. I couldn't help but think about, like, how often are you on a tech support call with somebody and you're trying to spell out a web address or an email address or something?
And it's impossible.
And it's very difficult to do. How much more difficult will that be in this situation?
Opera Browser now allows emoji-only web addresses. I think this is great. Maybe the Pirate Bay and some other websites will show up there and then, the lawyers can't figure it out. That'd be great.
I'm trying to figure out what the header image here, like, what is it trying to communicate to me?
Spock, cross, spaceship, spiderweb eyes.
What does it mean, chat?
Live long and prosper and rocket spiders into your face.
Oh, that's a terrible website.
So you can already do this. What is it? It's y.at. So if you do a y.at address, like Kesha's World, you can go to that. But Opera is making it so you don't have to add the y.at. You can just go straight to
emojis.
Rainbow Rocket Alien. Everybody loves Rocket, huh?
I guess. It is a popular emoji.
Cryptocurrency is definitely popular. More and more people are getting into it, but it raises a lot of questions about ownership and security and tax rules, and most people aren't ready for that. Then other things happen in their lives, and you got to think about what happens to the crypto.
Divorced couples now fight over kids, the house, and now crypto. The New York Times talks about several cases where mysterious, weird things happen with the crypto, and then it's like, oh, did it disappear in the Mt. Gox destruction? Is it just gone? Do we have less than we thought? Do we have more than we thought? Oops, there's a Monero wallet.
It's easy to lose crypto.
Yeah.
And then you have to think about, like, does it still exist as an asset if no one can get to it?
The IRS would say yes.
Yeah.
I think so would most people on the other side of the divorce.
Yeah.
What a weird edge case. There's no case law about that, really.
Well, there's going to be right after that one settles. I imagine the wife will get half of it, right?
Well, it's usually either way.
Well,
either spouse
according
usually
to
get
that,
half.
the big one, the judge said that the guy had to give her all of what he had because the half that he lost in Mt. Gox
was crazy. Yeah, that's crazy, right?
So
I guess it was a marital asset which he fumbled, but don't we operate on the principle that the wife is part of everything? Even when she's not?
Apparently it's because the fumble happened during the divorce.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really, if you're going to get divorced, it's smart just to cut everything down the middle and put it in escrow or something.
Yeah.
And that way there's no...
The lawyers would certainly have liked that.
Well, Lost Ark, I got to say, Lost Ark is a video game. I look at it and I'm like, I have no interest in this. 'Cause I don't care about any of this, but...
Give me my Space Oregon Trail.
House Flipper has changed me. in the sense that I won't just discount a game right off the bat, because I would have. You showed me House Flipper, I'd be like, get that out of here. There's no way I would ever.
But
be
it's so
interested in
good.
that.
It's so addictive.
But House Flipper kept me engaged for some time. I didn't get into it like Krista did.
Yeah, I was really into it for a little bit.
But can I discount this? Maybe we should check out Lost Ark. I don't know.
Lost Ark becomes the second most played in Steam history after just 24 hours.
This seems maybe a little premature.
I still don't understand exactly what it is other than just a generic MMO.
Yeah. Well, and there's probably a lot of people who are checking out streamers playing it right now too. So I don't. We'll see if they keep those numbers for more than like a month.
Meanwhile, Icarus is, no, come back.
Yeah, Icarus had a huge number like that. They blew up for like a week, and then everyone just stopped playing.
Because Icarus doesn't start to really make you hate it till you get to those later missions.
Right,
Yeah.
and we don't know that about Lost Ark yet.
But Lost Ark is also free.
Right.
That's probably part of it, right? I don't think you could ever compete with a non-free game as the number one ever.
But didn't Amazon made this, right? So they're
They-
probably promoting
nah.
it on Twitch and with influencers and
They didn't make it. It was popular in Asia, and they got it and made some changes and localized it, I think.
now have their marketing machine behind it.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And Twitch, imagine how much the Twitch algorithm
boosts this.
gives you more if you're playing an Amazon game, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll see if those numbers keep up. I think it's a little premature to be like, woohoo!
And it's great to compare and contrast. On one hand, we have Amazon, the gaming company, who is horrible. Most of their games are terrible, or they're this kind of thing, which seems like just, like addictive stuff. And then on the other side, we've got Gaben, Lord Gaben, who is maybe the
A
only...
blessing to PC gamers.
I know where you're going with this. Sony, the PS3 or the PS5 covers. That is the perfect antithesis to this. You know the PS5?
I'm not hip to the PS5 covers. Let's do the headline first.
Valve releases the Steam Deck CAD files, allowing anybody to 3D print custom shells. Meanwhile, Sony sued the ever-loving bejesus out of D-Brand for making PS5 shells. Do you see the difference between these two companies?
And yet somehow Steam, with all their pro customer stuff, they don't end up losing a ton of money.
No.
They end up
It's weird how that happens.
just bagging it up day after day, trying to get rid of it.
They used to make games and now they make money.
I'm coming to the hypothesis that because copyright law has been so extended and so perverted, there's like a century long, I think people need a wide berth on exceptions to copyright law because it's so extreme. And we have companies like Nintendo and Sony that are basically kleptomaniacs trying to get as much as they can out of the public domain. These things will never enter the public domain. Meanwhile, if you make an invention and you invent something, that patent is only good for 20 years, and then anybody can come and do anything that they want with it. Why is Mario worth more than like a flushing toilet?
And if you make an invention that makes their products a little bit more palatable, you'll go to prison for 3 years.
Team Executor.
And another thing that you've mentioned in the past, Wendell, is that some of the modern gaming world, some of the business model of the most popular modern games, it's not that the game isn't compatible with Linux. It's not that we don't have the video power to run this on Linux. Those problems have been solved. The problem is the game's monetary system at its heart cannot tolerate the liberty that is in Linux. Similar to how Justin Trudeau cannot tolerate liberty. Fortnite also cannot.
Does seem to have a really severe allergy, doesn't he? It's a little bit. So Fortnite for Linux isn't happening. Vivo NEX 5 specs leaked and main turns 25. This is from Liliputing.
This was a paywall alternative. It's a combo headline. We're really only concerned about Fortnite.
Fortnite for Linux, the copy protection. So Epic makes the engine, the 3D engine, and the copyright protection, cheat protection stuff is coming to Linux because that's a big customer of Epic's. But Fortnite, the game that is implemented with that engine, is not coming to Linux. And Tim Sweeney says it's because it's too hard to support those users. My hypothesis is that Linux will lay bare just how insidious what Fortnite is doing in the background because it's a free-to-play game. It'll be a lot easier to detect that in Linux, and there will be a lot more people on Linux that are outraged at what it's doing. Whereas, your 12-year-old cousin doesn't care. They just want to play the game, and they don't really care if it's doing really insidious things in the background. That's why Fortnite is not coming to Linux, not the copy protection.
Disgusting. But isn't it good for Linux that we never get Fortnite? Do we want those people?
I mean, if cheating,
If it's the gateway drug to Linux, maybe.
Barrier to entry is sometimes a good thing.
yeah, well,
Linux has too much.
if it really was the case that too many people are cheating in Linux, just mark their account different somehow. You know how you have like the console icon and the PC icon and some of the where it's like mixed players, but also you have to have an account. So just ban the account, ban the IP address. You already have tools for dealing with those things.
But then that looks bad because they lose players.
It might work. But that's a lot of infrastructure. That's a lot of time you have to spend dealing with those people. And those are not people you want to deal with. Well, past couple of years, we've had a lot of social movements here in the U.S., some of them more successful than others, and there have been a lot of corporate money that was pledged, as the Washington Examiner points out. A lot of it actually never got donated, which is funny, because several big companies came out and they were like, yes, we support you and we're pledging this amount. They never cut the check.
Yeah.
Never even thought about it. But one company that did was Amazon. They seem to be regretting it.
The Washington Examiner reports that Amazon has booted Black Lives Matter off of Amazon Smile as scrutiny intensifies. 306 million. So Amazon Smile is this thing on your Amazon account. You can say, hey, give a few extra pennies from all of my transactions to these charities or these good causes or these whatever. Black Lives Matter was one of those things that you could pick, and that accrued $306 million. Enough people picked that $306 million accrued at Amazon. But there have been some investigations and maybe some embezzling and maybe some fraud. Don't know, but Amazon's not going to be cutting the check.
Well, we were scheduled to find out all the dirty details, but they used an accounting trick. They changed their fiscal year to give them another 6 months. So now we have to wait another 6 months. But we will eventually see it. Now, it's interesting that Intel pledged $1 million to a variety of social groups, including BLM, never paid it. Cisco, big press release, $5 million just for BLM. Never paid it.
We do that for all kinds of social causes. It's frustrating because all they want is the headline.
Well, they saved themselves a little bit of an embarrassing headline later on, didn't they?
I guess.
We have all heard about electric cars being too silent. They can creep up on you, similar to a black hole, and
You never know.
catch you off guard and just take you down at the knees. And so to combat that, noises were added. At low speeds, your electric vehicle needs to make some kind of noise. Musk, who is a brilliant marketer, figured out a way to make that into a meme and make it into a bunch of news headlines. And I have a rare case of me agreeing with him. It's stupid not to let people do this.
Musk blames the fun police for recall of a feature that makes fart noises and goat noises.
Or whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's not allowed.
Yeah, I guess they were concerned about safety, but wouldn't hearing any kind of strange noise make people turn around and look?
Is this wildly different from the people who drive around the General Lees that make what's the name of that song? Something Dixie.
Oh yeah, something Dixie. I don't know. I guess I don't know.
So you can only use the default approved is it a
list of
beeping
sounds,
noise?
like ringtones for your car.
I think it's like a fake running sound.
And no more farts. And if you have, so some people actually already got this feature, your farts have to be removed. Your farts have to be recalled.
300,000 vehicles.
Oh, that should be the title of the episode. Farts recalled.
And Wordle, Krista, are you still on the Wordle?
I'm still playing Wordle. Yesterday or today, yeah, I guess it was today's word. I played it late. The word was bullshit today. It was a double letter word.
That's too many letters, Krista.
No, it was. Actually, I can say it because they haven't seen. The word was dodge, which two D's. No, I hate words like that.
Why is that not allowed?
No, it's fine. It's just annoying because sometimes you're not sure if it has two letters because you'll get one green mark or whatever on one letter, and then it's like, oh, okay, I don't need to put another letter in.
Sounds like you're a filthy Wordle casual.
Yeah, it took me all the guesses to get dodge today.
Well, that's not the only thing that is different about your Wordle experience, Krista, because now that the New York Times has taken over, they're making some changes.
There's a slew of ad tracking tech on the New York Times own Wordle, a game that once lauded for having none at all.
It was literally like the simplest concept in existence, and now it takes a second to load, and you know it's just full of trackers.
It's always fun when you work on the plain HTML web page that's like 3 kilobytes of HTML and 180 kilobytes of ad tracking nonsense. It's
Yeah.
just like,
We had a client recently who were like, the site's kind of slow, why? And we were like, you've got like 10 trackers on here, that's going to happen.
Yeah, that was funny.
So just press F12, click on that console link at the top of that tab. You can see it for yourself. You can see what Wordle is doing to spy on you. Maybe you'll stop using it.
Sad panda.
And moving on to the robot world, DeepMind. What are they doing this week? Are they beating a video game? Well, yeah, but we'll talk about that later. More importantly, More importantly, they are changing the future of energy.
DeepMind has trained an AI to control nuclear fusion. Google-backed firm has taught a reinforcement learning algorithm to control the fiery plasma inside a tokamak nuclear fusion reactor.
Something about that made me nervous.
Well, the good news about it is these can't melt down, because once it loses control of these blobs here, they just dissipate into the atmosphere. But the middle of this blob, the white part, is hotter than the surface of the sun. So it's very important that it not touch the metal. And
Right.
that's what the AI is figuring out. How to use magnets to control that blob. If we can do that, maybe we have free energy.
It was actually doing it surprisingly well. It's really hard to model this, and we don't really have a great, fast way to do this, so that the AI is able to do this as efficiently as it is. Genuinely very impressive. It's also a dynamic system, a dynamic analog system. It's constantly changing, so it's not just a matter of reading in some sensors and then applying an algorithm. The AI is the algorithm.
And if that AI miscalculates or something goes wrong with it, could
No,
be
it's
bad.
not catastrophic. It'll destroy the
This is
equipment.
the equipment, but yeah.
Yeah.
We won't end up with a black hole.
Well, hopefully.
Well, we know that's always a possibility. No matter what you're doing, there's always a chance for a black hole.
Honestly, I think it's more dangerous if this works than if it doesn't work, because geopolitics will react very negatively to free energy. Think about what's going on right now in Russia and the U.S. Russia's entire power is based on their energy.
It's funny that you say that because, I was following the whole oil industry thing, blah, blah, blah. They are pivoting very hard to plastics-based economics because they figure that oil is a fuel probably on its way out.
A lot of people think that once we get rid of fossil fuels in our cars and stuff, that we can get rid of oil. No. Oil is in everything.
Yeah.
Everything. You try to run a hospital without oil, a lot of people are going to die.
Yeah, there's some things you have to have plastics for, but we could probably get rid of quite a few.
If we're talking about, stringing this horrible experiment along as far as we can until humanity snuffs itself out, only using it for plastic probably buys us a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, fusion reactors in the cars, plastics in the hospitals. That's my platform when I run for political office.
Also, robotic bricklayers. I think everybody could deal with mud brick homes that are built by robots.
A robot bricklayer in every home? I don't think that would work. You only
A
really
chicken
need
in
it
every
once.
pot, a robot bricklayer in every house.
The local appliance rental, like nobody has a 20-foot lift, but even small towns have a rental place where you can go get a 20-foot lift.
How about 40 acres and a delivery robot?
Yeah, I'll take it.
That's the guarantee we'll make. Unfortunately, we don't have them here. Actually, we do. But we don't have this brand here because this one's in Korea.
South Korea to allow delivery robots on public roads in 2023.
They don't even pay taxes.
Delivery app Woowa and 7-Eleven start offering services on a trial basis.
They got to make them adorable, right? Krista,
They
do you
are
like
cute.
the design of this one?
They're really cute. Look at his little eyes.
Wonder if they move.
Oh, I was like, of course they got wheels, but no, I don't know about the eyes. They didn't have a video, I don't think.
He's got some robust wheels on him, doesn't he?
Was the delivery robot, the university campuses with delivery robots are popular here in the U.S. are becoming popular. Do we have a nonsense story about the traffic jam of delivery robots?
No, I missed that one.
It was this very similar model. There was some campus and they had a picture and somebody had carelessly left an e-scooter on like one of the ped walkways.
Didn't know how to move it.
And the delivery robot, there was a delivery robot waiting patiently for it to move, and then behind that delivery robot was another delivery robot, and then another delivery robot, and another delivery robot, and they're all just waiting for the e-scooter to move.
And the man
never going to move.
The man behind that e-scooter, Papa John's driver.
He's a plant.
I'm always amazed when I go to the dentist how technologically advanced all that stuff is back from when we were kids.
Yeah.
They've made some major advancements in dentistry, but it doesn't seem like they're slowing down because this is incredible.
Flagstaff dentist performs a dental implant on himself using robotic technology.
Ugh.
So he was monitoring what the robot was doing, and you still need a dentist. This is not like the automat where you just sit down and it's like, I'd like a number 4 molar, please. But
that's coming.
Yeah, this is really, really impressive.
You'll be monitored by a dentist, but it'll be a dentist sitting in front of a bank of monitors. And he'll be monitoring several dental surgeries at the same time.
Probably in another country.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I didn't have any problems with it.
No,
Said it worked
great.
perfectly, and he watched it back, and he was like, you know what, I consider myself a pretty good dental surgeon, but I would not have been this good.
Wow.
Now, he might be trying to sell.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, not like it matters to most Americans anyway, because teeth are luxury bones here. But
where in the world are teeth not luxury bones?
I think Canada actually. There's their luxury bones too. They don't get dental care.
Wow.
I think someone will tell us.
Well, Gran Turismo, man, I remember when the PlayStation first came out, just being blown away at the graphical fidelity of Gran Turismo. And you look back on it now, and you're like, what were we thinking? It's so funny. But it was really impressive, even more impressive than that. You turn off all the driving aids, and that was pretty realistic, and at least, relatively. And it turns out it is, to this day, one of the better realistic comparisons to real-world driving, which makes it very useful for this.
AI outraces human champs at the video game Gran Turismo. The program also challenges certain assumptions about self-driving cars. So, yeah, this is this article seemed to talk about using Gran Turismo for regular human drivers to practice, but also the self-driving cars is doing things that human drivers just can't do.
Right, the racing lines.
Yeah.
So really, at this level of simulation and in real race car driving, it's all about maintaining as close to that perfect line as you can. And everybody knows what the line is. The difficulty is that there are other cars also trying to do that. How do you navigate around them and not kill everybody involved? That's what AI couldn't do up until this point, but DeepMind is saying they figured it out. The first round, the humans won in points. They didn't win all the individual races. Second round, humans lost everything. So it's only getting better. The detractors said, yeah, that's a simulated racetrack. There are no scooters left lying on the road.
Or rain or.
Oops.
Actually, there's rain.
Is there rain?
today.
They've thought of everything.
There's all weather events in Gran Turismo. Well, spaceflight. How much does SpaceX or Blue Origin? What's that like?
I don't think it was this much. I think it was like $250K.
I thought it was in the millions.
Was it?
I don't remember, honestly.
Too rich for my blood, either way.
Yeah, that's true. Although I think this is the more realistic version. If you're going to want to go to space tourism, I think this is maybe the cheapest.
Virgin Galactic is looking for 1,000 people to buy its $450,000 spaceflight tickets. $150,000 down, $300,000 due on flight day. It's not too much longer, and that's going to be the cost of a weekend at Disney.
Remember that guy who, and this is just, it shows you the level of richness that some people achieve. It's just beyond our comprehension. He put down the deposit for one of those Blue Origin or SpaceX flights, and then the time came and he was like, you know what, I'm busy.
Give it to somebody else. It's fine.
I saw in this article they said Elon Musk was one of the people signed up for it, and I'm like, will they let him on there, or is he looking for ways to improve SpaceX?
Probably a little
Is that
column A,
corporate
a little column B.
espionage, or?
He's probably just looking for taking a little bit of their spotlight, right? If he shows up at their event, that takes a lot of their shine.
Or Richard Branson's on the flight with him, and it's like, my last mission in life is to take you out, and it just.
Oh man, a zero gravity fight between Elon Musk and Richard Branson that we get to watch later. That's the greatest thing I've
Celebrity
ever heard
death match.
It's gonna be live streamed on Twitch with the little guy in the corner with a controller, like faking it. It's like playing Space Billionaire Fighter.
And we have a correction from last week, not a correction, from us, but there was some bad information, and I got to say, this gentleman handled it like a champ. A lot of people would never admit this. He was completely apologetic.
China, not SpaceX, may be the source of the rocket part crashing into the moon. The developer of astronomy software said that Elon Musk's company would cause a new crater on the moon, said he has really gotten it wrong.
Yeah.
So somebody pointed out what he thought is they used the old slingshot around the moon method. No, they didn't do that. So his whole trajectories would have never worked out. And then he sort of worked backwards and said, you know what? I think it was this Chinese part instead. A moon mystery.
Oops. Let's send a robot up there to figure it out.
We already got one up there.
He's got to travel there. It's going to take forever.
And the telescope, it is still transforming, but it has started to look at things, and we've seen the first image. It's a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I scrolled down and was not super impressed, but...
Behold, the first images from NASA's James Webb Space Telescope.
Get ready.
It's blurry text that says "remove before flight."
There it is. That's either a picture of space or a piece of black construction paper someone has poked holes in.
It's black construction paper with aphids on it.
So that's exciting, I guess. Presumably we'll see sharper images in the future. And this is a story...
This is a sad one to end on.
It's one of the darkest things about our modern world. And certainly everybody's experienced technology that has been left to rot. They create it, they give it to you, Google Stadia, and they never do anything with it. And you're like, I bought this, and it's useless, this is bad. But it's not as bad as this young lady.
Their bionic eyes are now obsolete and unsupported. Second Sight left users of its retinal implants in the dark. So there's a couple different versions of these. There's about 115 people worldwide that have these retinal implants. It literally allowed blind people to have a kind of vision.
They could sense light.
They could sense a couple of things. They could do well enough to navigate a subway. One of them died. It sounded like the battery just gave out. It's probably a lithium polymer or lithium ion battery. I would bet that just replacing the battery would fix it, probably. But who do you get to work on that?
There's no one, apparently.
And who pays for that? Because they probably paid for it originally because they were testing.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you had like the best of the best work on that, like Louis Rossmann, he probably wouldn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, because if you do it wrong, it's medical technology. It could go very bad.
I don't think that Louis Rossmann is the best of the best when it comes to ocular surgery.
Yeah. Well, it's so the one woman, she said like she was in the subway and then she only had one installed, and she said it just like flickered and turned off.
Yeah.
And then the other guy has two, and he called the place. He's like, "Oh, I heard I had an upgrade," and they're like, "Actually, they just fired everybody."
Yeah, you're not getting your upgrade. Sorry. And it's just like, eh.
So here's a question.
His is still working though, right?
Yeah, his was still working.
You have to choose between keeping your current level of vision impairment or possibly getting a year or two of limited sight, but then who knows what, and you might be carrying around a useless piece of cybernetics for the rest of your life.
I would probably still do it.
Probably.
It depends on how expensive it was. If they were just paying for it, I'd be like, why not?
I'd still do it and then see if there's any possible way for me to figure out how to do like blind soldering so that I could do self-maintenance.
Come on.
Yeah.
You're going to be like that dentist?
But you can't like see what you're doing. Yeah. I'll just feel.
I mean, I don't know. But I feel bad because the thing that's wrong with the one lady's is probably something really minor. Like there's a high percentage chance that it's not something catastrophic, and you couldn't find anybody to work on it.
She needed to make an account and subscribe.
What about this darkness? What about she's getting on a plane and she goes through the scanner and they're like, oh, no. What is that? She's like, oh, no, it's an eye implant because I have this issue. And I say, okay, cover up your other eye and look at this. But it's dead. I say, like, oh, no, it's just dead. It'll never work again. And I'm like, oh, that's an explosive.
And then you never get on a plane. Surely you'd have a medical card or a bracelet or something. I don't know.
She would never be able to protest again. They would just arrest her on site.
But what if her bracelet expires and she can't get another one because this company's gone out of business?
Yeah, she's screwed either way, I think, which sucks.
Oh, the medical industry. It's got some problems.
All right, we will see you guys on Friday for more news.
And nonsense.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is February 25th. And we're doing nonsense and security today.
In the opposite order.
Yes. February.
So much nonsense.
And our first security story, I am never shocked. I should stop being shocked, and yet I'm never shocked to find out new facts about Roblox. Half of the children in the United States are Roblox users.
It's hot.
How
It's a
can
hot
that
game.
be true?
I went to the Roblox site and I had to look at the for parents tab because I didn't understand it. And I was like, ooh, is this what it feels like to get old? I don't like that.
Well, and when you have something that's that popular, obviously it brings in an undesirable crowd.
How Roblox quote-unquote beamers get rich stealing from children. Underneath the gaming platform worth $68 billion.
Whew. I guess this is just the Minecraft for a new generation.
Yeah, it turns
Are we
out
going to have to do a Roblox
Well-
competition in years to come?
It's not quite that, because Roblox is sort of a decentralized base product. All of the content is user generated off of that. So it's a different business model. And also, Minecraft hasn't done like in-game items and microtransactions and stuff, has it?
I don't think so. The only thing I can think of is for Minecon, they give you a cape on your character that you can enable.
Can you sell it?
I don't think so. I think
So-
you have to go to Minecon to get one of those capes.
So that's the big difference with Roblox, is that they do have all of that, which of course is why people hijack the accounts and then sell off all the rare stuff. They also mentioned, it sounds like Roblox was kind of like on the NFT train before other people. They will serialize some of the items. So this kid that was attacked, he had like number 900. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Number 918 of whatever this is. And apparently that's worth 320,000 whatever.
Funny monies.
And so really hated to lose that. And that's also how he proved this was happening, because he went to a third-party website where they still have, you can trade this afterward, found the exact same number.
Ooh.
So it's all phishing. If your kids play Roblox, it's time to sit them down and have a conversation about phishing.
people can steal your stuff. Also, you should play your Roblox in a virtual machine sandbox apart from everything else so that people can't steal your stuff as easily. That was a callback to the last episode.
Does Roblox run on Linux?
It runs under... We played it, and I was playing it under Linux that time that we played it.
We never played it.
Did we play
We did.
Roblox?
We definitely did.
I have no memory of
I
that.
don't think we did.
We just... Well, I did a stream of Roblox like a million years ago, and we were not into it at all.
You're thinking.
wasn't.
You're thinking of Trove.
No.
There's been so many games we've tried
You know-
over the years. They
You know how
get
to answer this question? Zero straws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero Straws could probably tell us.
Yeah.
one of the OG Twitch streamers.
Because we tried Roblox, and it was like, this isn't great. Maybe you weren't there, but it was like, this wasn't great.
Maybe. So, I have a tendency to put depressing articles because my thought is like it's better for people to hear about this if it's horrible, and I'm alone in that a lot of times here. And
I mean,
The-
it's fine if it's something that you can do something about, but sometimes it's just like, this is just depressing.
well, so there's been, and you know, like we just had one of those instances, but I would say, and you're not going to hear about that story, although it is going to be in the one tab, so if you have to know, but I would say this is worse. I would say
Yeah.
this is darker.
This is also tangentially tech related, I'd say too, but
Horrific.
Yeah. The SFPD, that's the San Francisco Police Department, puts victims' DNA into database used to file claims. Rape victims and a whole bunch of other stuff. The headline says rape victims, but it's actually victims of a lot of different crimes. So if you go in, you might be dinged to say, oh, we have your DNA from a robbery, or we have your DNA from something else. This is the opposite situation that the article called out, where somebody went in to report this kind of an assault, and their DNA was in a database, and then later it was added to the database, and then later there was a crime committed, and the DNA popped up, and they were able to round her up. And it's like, why were you in the database? And it turns out she was the victim of a crime.
Now, I don't know if this is true in this situation, but I do know, and Krista, you probably know more about this than I do, that traditionally, in every major city in America, there's a massive backlog of rape kit DNA testing.
yeah.
I bet that the time it takes to go from rape kit into the DNA database is almost nothing. Meanwhile, the time it takes from taking the kit to testing the kit can be months and months and months.
Yeah, sometimes years in some places.
So it seems like maybe there's emphasis being put in the wrong place there.
Right. It's not about actually solving the crime. It's about just collecting more data.
Yeah, expand the database at all costs. Well, here's a follow-up, and not shocking, but the numbers just keep going up with this scandal.
More Polish opposition figures found to have been targeted by the Pegasus spyware. Sure hope people inside Apple are paying attention so that they can build the tools so people can self-audit. We don't have to rely on Apple to say, oops. Because how pervasive does it have to be that only just now we're noticing the issue? I guarantee you there's something even more insidious than Pegasus that no one has noticed yet because we don't have the tools to audit.
That, you know what Google should be doing with their new virtual technology? Every time you open a link from email or text message, it should run in a virtual machine.
Yeah. And if you build it right, how cool is it to do the security auditing from that? It's like, if the virtualized link opener thingy is all of a sudden asking for like file system permissions to decode a zip file, it's like, how did we do that? How do we know? And you can snapshot that virtual machine and explore how it's broken and how it's requesting things that don't make any sense for the context of what it's doing.
Yeah, now that I think about it, that would be terrible for Google. Now, here's a crazy story about a piece of technology that most of us probably didn't even know existed. Because why would we ever need to use this? If you're not like a doctor or a journalist, you probably don't need this.
It's just awful all the way down.
If you are one of those people, then this is amazing for you. How much time does this save you? Hours and hours and hours every week, maybe hundreds of hours. But what do you really know about what's on the other side of that app?
My journey down the rabbit hole of every journalist's favorite app. Otter.ai has saved reporters countless hours of transcribing interviews, but caveat emptor. So there were interviews that had to do with Uyghurs, and it was like, wait a minute, what? It's not actually transcribing things correctly.
Well, not just that, but obviously when she was doing Uyghur style stuff, she was very careful not to post any damning or relate to an individual person, but she did record things, and then she got those transcriptions automatically done through this thing. And then crazy thing happened. She got contacted by somebody and was like, oh, what is this? So this little thing popped up. Hey, Phelim, I guess is her name. Hey, this was titled Mustafa Aksu. And are you sure? Is this real? Was this you? She immediately contacted him. She was like, am I getting phished? Is this real? Because I've never seen this before. And she got two different answers. One person told her, yeah, it's real. Go ahead and click on it. Another person said, oh, God, no, don't touch that. So somebody is monitoring what's going on Otter.ai. And when they hear keywords, they react.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's internal or not at this point.
I like that. There was a Reddit post that popped up this week that I don't know if it's real or not. It's probably real. But somebody had been Venmoing money. It's like you pay for lunch, whatever.
Oh, you're saying terrorists, right?
Yeah. The friends were Venmoing money back and forth, and it was like ISIS lessons, and it's like personal jihad for whatever. And they got a letter in the mail from their bank that was like, please don't put stuff like that in the memo. It's probably just you guys having fun with your friends, but we are obliged to investigate literally anything that comes up like that.
Wouldn't you write back and say, please stop spying on my bank transactions?
Yeah.
It's just so normalized that it's like, you need to come up with code words to refer to this. How dumb it's just.
Well, what you're describing is kind of the opposite of a honeypot, right?
Yeah.
What would we call that?
A vinegar pot.
But honeypots are big things to use in security when you want to try to catch somebody doing something that you think is wrong. Now, this company, a lot of people are saying, are maybe going a little too far with their honeypots.
A network of fake test answer sites is trying to incriminate students. So basically, these test questions, I guess that the people that design the tests search for the questions on a search engine, and then they build pages that rank very highly on search results for those particular questions. And the idea is that they run the web server. They can compare the IP address of the test taker to the IP address of the person visiting the website or performing the search. So as a student, you don't know what the questions are ahead of time. If you search for the question on a search engine and it pops up on their web server or their IP address or their thing for their application and there's a match, then you know who's cheating.
The software is already looking at your eyes and monitoring your attention span and all the other horrible things that these kinds of software do. But beyond that, they're using these honeypots to, even if you somehow beat all of those systems, they'll compare, like you say, the timestamps and the IP addresses, and they'll burn you for that too. If somebody else in your apartment building that you're sharing some kind of IP address with just happen to go to that site at the same time, you're done. It's unlikely.
Don't read the questions out loud. Don't have anybody behind you. Do not pass go. Do not click $200.
Why can't students learn anymore?
Yeah.
I'm being surveilled all the time.
This one has turned out to be a little bit of a non-story, but they're trying to argue a different thing here. To me, what this points out is that just basically face recognition is everywhere
Already,
days.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
New Yorkers in high stop and frisk areas are subject to more facial recognition technology. This is Amnesty International is basically saying, hey, the people that are doing stop and frisk also have really advanced face recognition stuff that's just going off constantly.
Another way to say that is there's more facial recognition in high crime areas.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, but is that okay?
And it's also wildly inaccurate a lot of the time. The solution for that should not be, let's try to improve the accuracy, but to try to, it's like, understand that technology's flawed.
Now, some of you might hear this headline and you might say, I don't understand why that's bad. It seems fine to me. They don't want to get spammed. The other half of you are rushing to register domains.
I've always wanted to take over that package. Thousands of NPM accounts use email addresses with expired domains. What do you want to do if you want to take over that project? Well, you can use the forgot password and reset your password back to the domain you just bought, and ta-da, you're the proud owner of a new NPM package.
Don't do that.
Somebody probably already has. Scammers. There's scammers deploying malware right now, even as we say this.
And if you're sitting there thinking, well, what email address did I use on my NPM packages? Go find out.
Oops.
Now, Krista, last week, you took us down the rabbit hole of the DeviantArt theft.
Yeah,
situation.
people just stealing art to make NFTs.
And we talked about, like, how do you defeat that? Because there's going to be it's going to be like the court system. It's going to just be a big logjam as people continue to steal. Turns out that maybe there's not a good solution for it.
Scent NFT Marketplace suspends activity due to plagiarism issues.
When all of the content is stolen, I guess we just shut down.
I guess so.
Man, it is kind of nice as someone, you get copyright claimed on YouTube all the time. It's nice to be on the other side of that for once.
That's not the way you should look at this.
No, but
We've literally had silence in our videos claimed, where it's like, this silence is too similar to the silence in the other video. And it's just like.
But if you're someone who made the artwork, you should be the one who gets to decide what to do with it.
What you just described there as, I've been the victim for so long, I can't wait to make somebody else the victim.
Yeah.
You've just described all race relations in our country right now. And that's not the way that should be solved. Another thing that is not good is how quickly people got into larceny and evil with their AirTags.
Apple plans AirTag updates to curb unwanted tracking.
How did no one foresee this?
They did.
Yeah.
They definitely did.
I bet you there's some Tim Cook emails percolating somewhere.
There was someone on that team was like, couldn't they just track literally anything? And they're like, shut up, dude. We're going to make so much money with this.
So they're trying to make it more obvious when there's an AirTag around you that's not one of yours. They're changing the cooldown time, making it louder, trying to fix the whole disable thing because people were selling them on eBay with all that turned off. I don't know. In some ways, wouldn't you think this, to Apple, this is kind of like when people get banned from online play and then run out and buy another account?
Yeah. Oh, people do that in Overwatch all the time. I do not understand it.
I mean, you're going to sell a lot of AirTags if people are just mailing them off to track something. And another story out of India that maybe points to some corruption.
A hacker group has been framing people for crimes they didn't commit. In India. Activists in India. Yes.
This
happens a lot, as it turns out.
one of the cases they pointed out is some guy was very critical of Modi and the Modi government, and they found a PDF on his computer. It was like, I'm going to kill Modi.
And that's all it said. That was his whole manifesto.
Turns out he didn't create that document. It was placed on his computer. Maybe they've been doing a lot of that.
Certainly, there's a couple cases of that happening in the U.S. as well.
Yeah. Hunter Biden's laptop? Is that what happened there?
I think the CIA did some stuff too. I don't know.
Here's a pro tip. If you're going to upgrade Windows 11, your operating
Microsoft.com?
Yeah, your operating system already has that built in.
Yeah.
You don't need to download anything. It'll just do it from right there. And if you do download something, this could happen.
Fake Windows 11 upgrade installers infect you with Redline malware. This is also happening for MSI Afterburner. Like if you Googled MSI Afterburner, somebody was paying for ads for Afterburner that had malware. This is a pretty common thing. It's like there's a popular thing. Let's get an ad for it, and then it's malware. Google doesn't check.
So these guys got a hold of windows-upgraded.com. Looks professional, huh?
I mean, it does look like a Microsoft site.
Yeah. Well, that download button will get you Windows 11 installation assistant.zip. Pro tip, you don't want that. You want to stay far away from that.
From a design perspective, I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah?
Yeah, that looks pretty solid.
It's clean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the nav bar looks very similar to the actual Microsoft. I wonder if they just copy and pasted the HTML and grabbed the CSS. And,
I'm sure they stole some CSS there.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, the big story that we've been covering about Amazon and a lot of online marketplaces, counterfeits. Of course, Wendell's got his crusade about the
cables, yeah.
The video cables. And I've got some Amazon basic USB cables that are causing me so many nightmares with my microphone right now. It's a terrible, terrible problem. But on the grand scale of things, bad tech and counterfeit cables, they pale in comparison to this.
U.S. nuclear power plants contain dangerous counterfeit parts, the report finds. So, yeah, they are. And you might be thinking, oh, these are special parts for... No, they're not. They're things like grade 8 bolts. Do you know how very bad it is when you replace a bolt with a grade 8 bolt that's not actually a grade 8 bolt? It's like a grade 2 or 3 bolt. It's going to be a very bad time for everybody because it's not just the bolt that you're going to have to replace again. Something is going to destroy itself catastrophically. We've been in a situation for a couple of years now where the supply chain has failed. There aren't people making things the way that they need to be. There are huge vacuums. So the cost of a grade 8 bolt has gone from like pennies to dollars. And people are selling things as grade 8 bolts that are not grade 8 bolts.
So they point out a couple of different things here. They had a pipe, just a pipe. It was for wastewater. They installed it. They turned on the pressure, it exploded just into a million pieces. It was nowhere even close to the actual materials that it required.
That wasn't even remotely Schedule 80.
So they kind of downplay the risk of that at the end of the article. They're like, well, this probably isn't that big a deal. I don't know.
Aren't we doing a bunch of infrastructure spending right now? We need to make sure we're sourcing good parts.
Didn't we have a bridge that fell down?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, I was doing some boiler maintenance and one of the local hardware stores, I needed a 2-inch, Schedule 80 deal, and one of the local places I had it made in China, and I started tightening it onto the fitting, and you got to get it really tight, and it exploded. It threads on, and then you tighten it, but you really got to use the strength of Samson, and it just split on the seam. And then I went to a different plumbing supply place, and they had some from Thailand that had a UL stamp, Underwriters Lab, on it. That one worked great.
I feel like you have to become an expert in everything anymore to make sure that you're getting something quality.
I can't get, it's like, is this Schedule 80? Yeah, it totally is. No, it wasn't. It wasn't at all.
I don't even shop on Amazon a lot because I know it's going to be a lot of counterfeit stuff, and it's like, I'd rather just spend a week researching this and then order it directly from whoever the supplier is.
But I bet the store didn't know that.
Probably not.
Yeah,
no.
Probably not, yeah.
They probably ordered Schedule 80, and what they got was swill.
You pay for this and they give you that. That's a Neil Young lyric. So, Mage Cart, And you're thinking, well, what year is this? Mage cart. Didn't we already get rid of that? Isn't that done? Now it's back.
Hundreds of e-commerce sites are booby-trapped with payment card skimming malware. I think DigiKey got caught up in this because one of my cards was stolen through DigiKey.
It's nothing fancy, although they have figured out a way to pop up and sort of like keep you in the cart process, but not really.
Yeah.
You're working on a different URL at that point. And I never saw any follow-up to this, did you?
Nope.
No explanation. And
Yeah.
considering what else is happening there, you really got to wonder, what was this about?
Canada's major banks go offline in a mysterious hours-long outage. It's probably not because of the Emergency Powers Act, or maybe it is because of the Emergency Powers Act, but 3 major banks were completely offline for everything online, and even the ATMs were problematic.
Or, hell, maybe it's Russian hackers. Maybe it's Chinese hackers pretending to be Russian hackers. Maybe it's just 4chan trying to cause problems. Like, who could it be?
What if it's Canadian hackers pretending to be Chinese hackers, pretending to be Russian
Yeah,
hackers?
who knows?
It turns out it was actually people in Russia that were sending money, but they're terrorists.
That's not actually... You're adding that as flavor. That didn't actually happen. So TD, which is apparently a big bank in Canada, they said, no, we weren't affected by that. And yet, when Bleeping Computer looked into it, both the online app, what is going on with this battery, and the ATM.
You're not affected, huh? Your ATM disagrees with you. We've always been at war with East Asia.
And it's important to note that the Emergency Act that Trudeau enacted gave all of these banks the ability to do a lot more spying. Could there have been a push that didn't quite work?
Yeah. I'm just going to feel very sad when the AutoWalks guy posts a video that's like, they took all my money.
He is not explicitly
I know,
pro-protest.
but it doesn't matter.
That's true. Right.
Yeah, isn't his whole thing just taking walks? There's a lot of channels like that.
Yes.
Just walking around a different city.
His whole thing is very deliberately just taking walks, and that absolutely will be criminalized.
And you know what's funny? The reason he's only had that channel for 1.5 years, and the reason he created it is because he couldn't do anything else during the lockdowns.
Yeah. I used to walk around my little neighborhood for a long time. I didn't video it.
Should have taken a camera with him.
Yeah,
Well, every week I try my best to do a Krista trigger story.
this is one.
A
for
story
me.
that I know that she's going to feel very strongly about and have done other research on. And this one I'm totally confident this week.
Study finds Western megadrought is the worst in 1,200 years. There was a little bit of hope, like a glimmer of hope, because this is an El Nino year for our climate, so that means it's usually a little cooler and wetter for the winter. And so we had really high snowpack in like the Sierras in the west for a while, and then no more rain after that short period, and now we're back to megadrought status.
We know this is the worst in what was it, 1,500 years?
I don't know.
It was the worst in an ungodly amount of years because of tree analysis.
Yeah.
We did 1,200 years. We did a crazy amount of tree analysis and determined that the last time it was even remotely close to this bad was the year 1,500. But we're actually much worse now than the year 1,500. You'd have to go back another 1,000 years.
But we've ballooned our population for that area, and we're continually pumping water out of the Colorado River, and it's like, what? We have to stop this, but no one seems to care or notice.
Yeah, what we have to stop is that population.
Right, yeah. They can't keep having people moving into these places that don't have water to support them.
We can't keep having people.
Maybe Elon Musk's desalination plant can just start pumping the ocean into Colorado because we got too much ocean in the ocean and not enough ocean in Colorado.
Are we going to drown the people in Colorado? Because that's the only way I think that works.
Like, Colorado's not the problem. They have water in Colorado. They're just pumping it all out to other places.
Yeah,
not just Colorado.
We're just choosing them arbitrarily.
Places like Arizona. Arizona has huge population growth, but no water to support it.
Maybe we could build we built the Panama Canal. Maybe we can build some sort of artificial canal from the ocean to Arizona.
That's what they did. They built a pipeline from the Colorado to California, and that's how we prop up our agricultural industry.
Yeah, and that water's salty.
Well,
Yeah, in the case of
we can probably fix that too.
Not unless we get that fusion reactor. Once you do that, then you have unintended consequences from the power that runs the desalination plant.
One of the really cool desalination technologies doesn't actually desalinate the salted part of the water. It just separates the salt water from the water because The ocean is salt water and regular water mixed together. And you can actually not desalinate it, just separate water and salt water. And that was one of the desalination technologies that's quote-unquote low power.
Then why aren't we doing that?
We're trying. Some kid was like, hey, let's figure this out. There's a membrane that does it. So we should be doing
There's
that.
not a fire under anyone's ass yet. They think we can just keep growing infinitely and not have any problems.
Yeah, but the engagement challenge is to maybe tell me why that's not a thing. But I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
I would say that the reason it's not a thing is because every time we have something good and decent and pure, it gets purchased and destroyed.
Not unlike Wordle, which has also banned the word slave, as New York Times stops users from entering offensive words. Oh, your guess is slave? I don't think so. You're not allowed to enter that.
Not in the word list. That's not the only word, but we don't really know what the banned word list is yet. We just know that, well, I can't say these other ones, but here we go.
They should really be banning words with double letters. But they won't do that because they're cowards.
Doesn't that artificially lower the difficulty?
Sort of, but like it doesn't always show you, like if you get one letter right, if that letter is repeated, it doesn't necessarily highlight the letter to indicate that you got it right twice, if that makes sense.
I think that's just the way it should work.
I don't like it.
Maybe you could fork Wordle and do your own version. Everybody else has.
Yeah, there's a lot of different versions of Wordle. You don't have to use the New York Times one.
Well, back when we first started to see the O variant, obviously I can't say it, but you know what I'm talking about, the popular one now that everybody got. Everybody collected it.
Gotta catch them all.
When we first heard about it in this country, we heard about it in a very hilarious way. And of course we covered it here because, you know,
It was an anime convention.
there were furries there. And when there are furries there, you got to talk about it. But the CDC, who are beyond reproach, like I don't think, can you think of a time when the CDC has ever said anything that turned out to be not true?
It's just, I really feel like there's something, but something's just blocking my memory.
I think you're wrong. I don't think that's ever happened. But they are here to confidently tell us that that was nothing to have been concerned about.
The New York City Anime Convention was not a super spreader event, as it turns out.
For the thing, but probably spread some other things around.
Well, do you think that, your furry costume is as effective as a mask? I mean, maybe that's what it was.
It could be.
Probably in cosplay.
You know what I'm willing to say? That I bet a furry mask is just as effective as a cloth mask.
Maybe more so, more layers.
So they did actually track several of these people. They weren't able to track them all, but they tracked 4,000 of them and followed up. And sure enough, turns out not very many people got sick. And the ones that didn't get very sick because I guess furries are robust. They got good
Probably
immune systems.
skews younger crowd into the
I would
anime
think
and
so.
furry stuff.
You gotta be in pretty good shape to wear 50 pounds of fur and leather and whatever.
Leather and chainmail.
True. Plus, I bet furries drink a lot of milk. High vitamin D, right? Yeah. Well, here's an adorable story. And I don't usually think babies are adorable, but I kind of like this one just because, I mean, how could you not?
Georgia toddler diagnosed with extremely rare uncombable hair syndrome.
I looked at this story.
That's
and
the headline.
When I first looked at it, I didn't believe it until I read the whole thing because I was like, listen, as a girl who grew up with curly hair, people tried to brush my hair a lot when I was a kid. If you have curly hair, you do not brush it because it looks like this kid's hair. It will just get real big and poofy. But he actually does have some sort of weird genetic trait that changes the shape of his hair like under a microscope. And it makes it stick up like that.
So they described that he was normal until about 6 months, and then this just exploded.
It's so cute. They say like they go to the supermarket and stuff and people want to touch his hair. Also annoying as someone with curly hair, but I get it.
Maybe not as adorable as they've created an Instagram account to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
If you want to check them out.
Oh, Lord.
Now, they say that right now, almost every social situation this kid is in, the hair is actually great for him.
Yeah.
Because it attracts attention. Other kids love it. I wonder at what age does he begin to hate that hair?
Probably as soon as he gets into public school.
You know where...
Or if there's any sort of trend like in the early 2000s, like the really long straight hair was in, and I couldn't do that. It was very frustrating for me.
What if he can find a place in the world kind of like Korea is right now, Just dye that. You fit right in. Everybody be like, oh, that's the hottest hairstyle I've ever seen. That's
Oh,
amazing.
you thinking like the boy band thing? Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
he's got a career in a boy band.
Well, it's not just boy bands. That's really hot in all of Korea, isn't it?
What,
Crazy colored hair for men.
Oh, maybe.
Sure, some of our audience can tell us about that. Now, Krista, another thing that you've told us in the past is that you have some people in your social circle who you suspect are cheating at
I know
Wordle.
he's cheating. He stopped doing it, but apparently, if you look at the source code of Wordle, you can see what the word is. And he was always posting like the first guess he got was always.
But
the
you can
right
also, I mean, you can find out 10 minutes after it's happened.
been posted,
because
yeah,
it's-
you could go on
it's
Twitter.
the same word for everybody.
one. Yeah.
Is there a clue? Do you get a clue, or is it just give it something?
No, your
You
first
have
guess
to-
is blind.
And there are whole strategies about what's your first word pick in Wordle.
So
I always do reads.
that's
but-
that's a great question, Wendell. So we can actually illustrate that before we do the headline. After you win at Wordle, it'll give you this blank output here to tweet so that people can see how you got there without spoiling it. So this gentleman did that, but there was a problem.
Carl Anthony Towns called out after obvious fake Wordle post.
So it turns out the second row, 3 rows is a really strong win.
Yeah, that is a strong win.
The second row,
You get like 6 chances, I think.
somebody looked at the word and looked at the possible words that he could have chosen from the non-banned word list. This was an impossible guess. Not real.
Cheater.
Interesting.
Who do you think is worse? Someone who cheats at Overwatch or someone who cheats at Wordle?
I think in terms of who's more pathetic, it's probably the person who cheats at Wordle because
But they're not as disruptive.
they're not as disruptive. But Wordle's just like a social game. Like why cheat at it?
In before Tim Sweeney, it's not worth bringing Wordle to Linux.
That's like not competitive at all. Like why would you care? The joy is the experience of telling your friends, "Hey, did you do the Wordle today?"
Yeah, well, the joy of video games is accomplishing something, right? Getting the endorphins from overcoming a difficulty. And when you have an aimbot, you don't get that, but
Yeah.
people still like it.
I don't understand that though. That makes no sense to me.
I want a video game where there's a robot that can drywall a room. I want a video game where you control the robot that's drywalling a room somewhere.
So what you want basically is 2040, a 20-year-old person, the video game? Because that's what it's going to be.
Something like that. I mean, it'd probably be fun. And then, the robot
Won't be
company's getting
fun.
some training data.
It will be the opposite of fun.
It's like House Flipper.
Because if you look away from your drywalling, a buzzer will go off because the eye sensor is looking at you. It's like, you're time stealing.
I mean, this is the future that Metamates are going to bring us.
Metamates. Ugh.
It's like, this is the most amazing VR House Flipper I've ever seen. And it's just,
Someone crying in their headset.
Ugh. Well, what you're describing, what we're all describing, is a grossly dystopian future. And that is a popular kind of fiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, one of the hottest TV shows of the past couple of years was The Squid Game, which was overwhelmingly dystopian and awful. But it turns out people want to be a part of that.
I don't understand it.
Saudi Arabia, the first in the world to offer the full experience of Squid Game. Okay.
Not quite the full experience. They won't kill you. You guys haven't watched that yet, right?
No.
Wow, you're missing out.
I'm vaguely familiar, but
It's so good. So they point out that they have done the minimum that they can do to make these games non-lethal. So like there's one game in the Squid Game, spoiler alert, you have to walk along a glass, like checkerboard type situation. Some of the glass is tempered and some of it's not. And you have to jump. So if you make the wrong choice, you go down. In this version, it's just a loud buzz and a red light. But you're still out. You still can't play anymore.
this the guy who made Muck, the game we played for a long time, he made a version of it called Crab Game, and it has all the same games in it.
Okay. But you can't play on IRL, Krista, which is
No.
so much more
But
fun.
Crab Game's free, and I don't have to go to Saudi
know,
Arabia.
Did you guys? They didn't say how much this cost. Said you could participate, but they didn't say what that cost.
I wonder if this will become popular. So, they have the escape rooms. You could probably get this format in an escape room format.
You need a big building, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the escape rooms are pretty big, so.
Well, the Queen is. There was that unpleasant headline about her son. settling that case and basically admitting
Yeah.
a terrible thing. Also, a lot of people are saying she had to pay that bill because he's broke. That's a tough conversation to have, right? Hey, mom, or mum, as they say.
Mummy.
Mom, I'm going to need $12 million. Oh, what for, Andrew?
I've already stripped you of all your titles.
So
and now
maybe,
you come asking for cash?
maybe the royal coffers are getting a little low. They're going to need to refill them. How are they going to do it?
The Queen is launching a royal ketchup. The Queen's brown sauce is packed with vinegar and spices,
Shouldn't it be Worcestershire? Worcestershire?
similar to Worcestershire sauce.
So, yeah, it's apparently going to be like a really nice ketchup. But here's the kicker. You buy it directly from her. We don't know what the shipping costs, but the ketchup itself, $9.
Directly from her? Like, do you go to Buckingham Palace and, like, you meet her out in the courtyard and it's kind of
Yeah.
shady? You pull your cash out of your pocket?
Right. She only takes cash.
Yeah.
She knows what's about to happen with the economy.
Don't tell anybody where you got this ketchup.
There's going to be a run on the banks.
Turns out, and this is a little crazy, right? Because this is our thing. Not very patriotic of her, but one of her favorite foods, hamburger.
Oh.
I guess technically that was invented in Europe, right?
Shouldn't she like shepherd's pie or something? British
Yeah,
food.
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
Movie Pass. Remember Movie Pass? Boy, that was a bad idea. And it played out exactly like a lot of people predicted it would. And which makes you wonder, how do they think this is going to play out?
The new Movie Pass app will use your eyes to track you and force you to watch ads. Ah, the scene from A Clockwork Orange. Always used. It's like, you must watch this. It's like, no!
So yeah, I don't quite understand it, but I get the impression, obviously you don't want somebody on their phone in the theater, right? So I get the impression you have to watch the ads before, and you get incremental payments. Those, collect those. When you get enough of them, you can exchange that for the movie.
Drink verification can.
Oh, it's going to be more insidious than that. If this is even remotely successful, the next thing is your phone is going to say, what's the #1 soft drink brand? What's the number?
Doritos do it right.
And it's going to do that in the theater.
Yeah.
How much do you love Doritos? And you have to stand up and tell everybody.
That makes me like murderous with rage. Hearing stories about how like they can't just advertise to you. They demand your attention.
Now, I'm trying to think of a way, how could I use my cats? Right?
Oh, so make your cats
So they're
watch
looking
the
at
ads.
it. All right, maybe put like a laser on the wall behind the phone.
What about the click farms? You know, all the click farms, are they just going to be like mannequins with eyes painted on them in front of the phones, and there's just a farm of those?
They're going to have a helmet that's kind of like a soccer ball or a golf ball, you know, with like and each one's going to have a face on it so that everyone's pointing at a different screen. And then there's mirrors in there so you can switch between the faces.
Excellent.
Get started on that, somebody. The Gold Cube was a hot story. People were excited about it, but it was only there for one day. And clearly, a lot of marketing companies saw that and they said, ooh, we need to be a part of this. Actually, we don't need to do something like this. We need to just hijack this.
11.7 million Gold Cube gets replaced with a big Velveeta box. Because of course.
I never realized that Velveeta was labeled as liquid gold.
I think they got in trouble for calling it cheese.
Yeah, isn't it? It's poverty cheese, right? Like we used to
definitely not
get.
cheese.
We didn't even get Velveeta. We got the off-brand Velveeta when I was a kid.
It's a pasteurized cheese product.
It melts really good in mac and cheese. It melts really good in noodles.
Wait a minute, what's pasteurized? What does that say?
Cream
can't
cheese?
read it.
No.
I can't tell what that is.
We're all
don't know
too
what this
blind.
is.
Open up another tab.
It's not a click.
Hang on. We'll look it up.
Can't just open the image. Oh, I don't think this is going to help us a whole lot. Recipe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
recipe cheese product.
Pasteurized recipe cheese product.
That doesn't mean anything.
Well, maybe it means like because most people use it in noodles. Like that's how my mom would put. She'd put Velveeta in noodles.
That's a crazy phrase. That's got to be something to get some law loophole or something, right?
Yeah, probably. It's not actually food, most likely.
And that's another example of in the European Union that wouldn't fly because You're just trying to exploit a loophole. It's not cheese. Don't mislead people into thinking it's some sort of cheese.
Well, misleading people is the also the topic here, but is anybody stupid enough
No.
to confuse these two
This
things?
is dumb.
Seems unlikely.
A plant shop owner is fighting Nike over the name Just Suck It. Suck is in succulent. SUCC.
How the kids use it.
Yeah.
So this young lady lost her job due to the issues of the past couple of years. And she said to herself, you know what? I need to reinvent myself. What do I love? And she'd been trying to help her yard be less water dependent. So she was working with succulents. She said, you know what? I've got a great idea. She got drunk on a little tequila, came up with the name Just Suck It, which is hilarious. And boom, she's successful. She's doing really well until Nike shows up.
Nike's like, that's too confusing and too similar to Just Do It.
Oh, come on.
They should withdraw their case. I mean, come on. She's never going to be as successful as Nike, and
they're in totally different spaces. Like,
and Nike's trademark is not polluted in the least by that.
Nike was planning on moving into the plant world, and now they're upset.
It'd be funny if she got a ton of phone calls. It's like, do you have shoes?
Hi, do you sell athletic wear?
I'm looking for a cactus and something in a runner. This is a hilarious headline because I suppose if you're going to do this, you should take it this seriously, right? But
Is this Catholic only?
Yeah.
but here's my question. They've invalidated all these. What about the people who died in the meantime?
The Pope will have to fix this. We learned from the movie Dogma that the Pope can say some stuff and then fix it after the fact.
Are they in purgatory waiting?
I mean, I don't know if perpetual existence is fourth dimensionally related to how we are now. It may be that, this was always predestined to be so that it will never have been. I don't know.
John the Baptist didn't have a script when he baptized Jesus, so I think it's okay.
You're going for
Maybe
a
that's
Calvinist?
filthy. Maybe that's filthy Protestant in me talking, but
Well, whether or not any of that is real, what we do know for sure is that these were completely invalid.
Phoenix priest who botched baptisms for decades apologizes and seeks to make amends. He said, "I" instead of "we."
He said we instead of I, because
we instead of I.
when you are baptizing as a Catholic priest, you are not yourself. You are channeling Jesus directly.
Maybe he thought he was channeling the Holy Trinity. And that's kind of a "we." Is that an "I, we, me"?
That's going to send you straight to hell. What are you even talking about? You
I
cannot
don't,
do that.
I don't understand the dogma with the Catholic side, so I have no insight here.
It's the Holy Trinity. That's the "we." No, I don't know. That doesn't count.
Seems like it wasn't malicious. He's apologized.
But with the whole Kevin Smith movie, we learned that with the buddy Jesus subplot, that if the Pope decrees something and it's contradictory to the thing, it creates the loophole that opens up something or other. So the Pope can probably just fix this.
Now, some people would
An
argue
executive order kind of thing. I don't know.
Some people would argue that they kind of make it up as they go along, but in their defense, I don't think Kevin Smith movies are canon in the Catholic Church.
A raging debate.
That's
even
what
now.
that's what makes it so. It's like they're so pedantic with it that's why it's funny.
Well, you know what's not funny? Police corruption. And oh boy, do we have a lot of that going on. And the problem with it is after the police do corrupt things, it takes a long time to wind out. And in most cases, nothing happens to them. Why? Because of politics.
Texas police unions would like for Travis County District Attorney to stop announcing indictments of Texas police officers until after the election. You can still indict them for whatever wrongdoing they may have done. Just wait until after the elections.
If you're these cops, aren't you thinking, well, wait a minute. That sounds like it's going to be bad for me eventually. So it comes from, obviously, all of the uprising we had here in this country and the cops' maybe heavy-handed response to that.
This article, I feel like, is peak dystopia.
When and where is the last time you saw a functioning vending machine?
At the grocery store outside my old apartment.
Was that a small grocery store?
Yeah, it was local.
The rest stopped between here and Wilderness.
Oh, right. They have actually some nice vending machines there.
Yeah.
They have some interesting products in those.
The one near my old apartment, it had a Faygo machine.
Ooh.
Just Faygo.
I kind of miss when they were always outside the grocery stores because it was always cheaper than anything you could buy inside, which is probably why they're not outside the grocery stores anyway. But vending machines are going extinct. However, some vending machines, just by their very existence and their tenacity, become celebrities.
The force is strong with this vending machine. Pittsburghers make the pilgrimage to see the 90s relic on Mount Washington. It's a phantom minute. Like, why is this? People are apparently nostalgic for the 90s, I suppose.
I just don't. Is this a Disney plant? Is this article planted by Disney?
Probably.
It wasn't Disney in those days.
Episode 1.
No, but maybe they're getting ready to release it from the vault.
Why would anybody want that one released?
This tweet's also from 2020. It's still there after 2 years. I like that one year pranksters at MIT had a vending machine that was motorized. And so when no one was around, it had a bunch of sensors and stuff on it. And when no one was around, it would relocate itself.
Did anyone see that,
That it was eventually discovered because it was malfunctioning, but it would just move itself. And it could find electrical outlets and plug itself back in.
Part of its prime directive was that no one should ever witness that.
Yeah.
If they do, they have to be killed.
Well, it didn't kill them, but that was part of its programming. It was like, only do this.
People die under vending machines every year, and it's this one.
Trying to rock them.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have solved that by now? Yeah. Is that on purpose?
How dare you try to manhandle this
That's
machine?
what you get.
Well, in the past couple of years, we've really ramped up a lot of the dogma around calling people things that is way over the top for what they're really doing. It's being used to the point that it's kind of lost all meaning.
The words have lost their meaning.
And we certainly saw a hell of an example of that in Canadian Parliament recently. But this story shows you that it's not partisan.
It is not.
Both sides will try and launch this smart bomb. Now, here's my recommendation to you. If you're going to try to use this fire and forget horrible weapon of mass destruction, maybe read a book about it first and learn the terminology.
The Gazpacho police. Yes. We're pretty sure she meant Gestapo.
Demonetized.
But gazpacho, that's a soup. That's a Spanish cold tomato soup.
Maybe that's what she meant.
Which sounds awful.
Yeah.
Cold tomato soup?
I don't like cold tomato soup. I don't like tomato soup
Maybe
at all.
we're missing out. Chat, tell us.
Could be like House Flipper, right?
Yeah, might be delicious.
Now, every time I see her in headlines, like The Guardian didn't do it, which is props to The Guardian. They always they acronym her name the same way they do AOC. They call her MTG. Every time I read that, I'm like, Magic the Gathering?
Why were they talking about this?
Also, she can't help this, but I can't. Doesn't she look a little bit like Dog the Bounty Hunter?
She has that energy. I can see it.
Don't think too much about that, or blood will shoot out of your nose.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Instead, think about this adorable image.
Police handcuff cougar bothering a residential neighborhood. They didn't euthanize it. They were able to relocate it.
Where is this? Is this in Colorado?
I ain't gonna tell you nothing, pig.
I have rights.
So yeah, they found this guy in a residential neighborhood with a lot of people, and they tranked him. But these guys were just the cops. I guess the cops in this neighborhood are rolling around with trank darts, and they were waiting on the animal control people. But they were like, "What if he wakes up? Because we don't have another trank dart."
Oh yeah.
So the answer: pop the cuffs on him. Do you think his little paws flare out enough to actually stop him from getting those off?
Probably not.
Cougars are pretty big. This is also, I was wrong, it's British Columbia.
Oh, I bet they found out he was going to Ottawa.
The Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Department says there are no cougars left in Kentucky. However, local game cams say differently.
There are at least a few.
Yeah, I've been to a couple local bars that I would also dispute that.
Hashtag justice for the cougar. This is the sad story.
We're canceling this one. If you're so curious that you have to know the darkness, it's the second to last in the one.
It wasn't really funny. It was just sad.
Very sad.
Nothing funny about it. But I think it's important for people to know. But you know what?
What's going to be really sad is those kids they're going to be Googled, and
Yeah.
the case transcripts will be on the internet eventually, and so they're going to be getting a job, and somebody's going to be looking.
Oh, I think she settled.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's still going to be out there.
yeah.
Yeah, she sold him out, and she was like, "Oh, he's just let's not talk about it because they don't know what they're talking about." And here we go. This is like maximum dystopia.
Yeah, I hate
This
corporate
everything
overlords.
everything we've talked about in terms of what is going on with those glasses. That was distracting. Everything we've talked about with company store, and the way that our corporate overlords want to own everything and have us just exist completely in their world could not be. They never did that. Remember the Google City in Canada?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that, right?
No.
Something went wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like they figured out that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything to stop this.
No, Disney. No.
This is going to happen.
Disney launches new neighborhood community, Story Living.
This is like an HOA on steroids. Who wants this?
It is Disney, the neighborhood.
It's catering to people who are like weirdly obsessed with Disney.
I think it's going to be an HOA without the O.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. Looks
Yeah.
beautiful, though. Look at that. That's
It's just a model.
Yeah, an artist rendition. Here you go. Got some weird, not actual palm trees kind of things going back there.
Because they don't have enough water
Come-
to actually build
Well, they do have this
this
gorgeous
giant pool.
turquoise
How are
turquoise
they going to
pool.
get the water right?
They're going to use that same,
They're going to helicopter ice in from the poles.
that special, it's not chlorine. They use something else at Disney.
Oh, it starts with a B.
It's going to be in here.
Yeah.
It stinks. So yeah, we don't know too much about it. Now I did go to the website, and it just gets more terrifying.
Yeah, Twitter roasted this when it came out, but there were some people who were interested in it.
Story Living by Disney. So we've only got one community right now, Rancho Mirage. And
Okay, so like look at how like they're trying to make this really cool. This is California. What's it going to look like in the Florida one? It's going to be a weird mix of like the Disney aesthetic but also the kind of weird trash of Florida.
and meth.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to have meth. And
It's like, what happened to Billy? It was like, oh, Billy's family had to move. They became too poor.
Oh.
yeah.
They were removed by the Disney Corporation.
I imagine that selling your house in this situation will also, Disney will have almost total control of that, don't you think?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
retirement communities have already perfected this, where you don't own your house. Like you can kind of buy it, but it's the retirement community has a built-in right of first refusal, and there's rules governing how the house is priced. So when you buy the house back, the retirement community gets to buy it under market value.
Do you think that Disney would let any of the Canadian truckers move into their community?
Yeah, that's are they going to do background checks?
Oh,
on
yeah.
people,
Are
you
you
think?
kidding?
Yeah.
This is HOA on steroids.
Yeah, we're going to be doing stories in the future where the person quoted in the story is going to say, it's like, I never intended to go on the Disney blacklist. I'm never going to be allowed to be in the Disney community. I didn't mean
I
that.
can't get a Disney Plus account.
Disney will not call it a blacklist. They'll call it like the non-magical list or something.
I'm on the Song of the South list.
The villain list. Unrelated to anything, I like that font they're using in the headline. I like how they've sort of flipped the O's around and made the bottom and the top heavier. That's nice.
They probably own the glyphs for that and will aggressively pursue anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like probably a custom typeface, but it looks cool.
Aggressive copyright enforcement.
Yeah, look, copyright Disney, all rights reserved, right at the top of their about page.
Plans are subject to change or cancellation in part or whole at any time without notice. That's what I want to hear about my home.
Yeah, your housing. But buy in now.
Good news, we've decided to convert the neighborhood into a theme park. It's like, great, how much are you giving for my house? Get out.
Yeah. Be thankful that I'm not just killing you outright.
Oh, this is interesting. Disney is not the developer of Cotino, a Story Living by Disney community, or the builder or seller of the homes. Third-party developing and building companies independently owned and operated.
Well, of course, because of the legal liability.
So they just put their name on it and then probably have Disney characters walking around your neighborhood at all hours?
Well, Disney doesn't want to get sued.
Oh, wow, it just gets worse. Disney does not guarantee obligations of nor provide any warranties for the construction of community infrastructure, recreation areas, or unaffiliated parties. So Disney could pull out at any moment.
Yep.
What if your pool gets filled with sewage? Are they just going to be like, well, that sucks for you. It's not magical anymore, I guess.
I was promised a neighborhood experience for Star Wars. They were going to build a Star Wars experience in the neighborhood.
I've signed up for Star Wars neighborhood. At the last minute, they changed it to Marvel.
There's so many layers of dystopia to this that our reality is so terrible that you would subject yourself to this just to try to get away from it.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, equal housing opportunity. How much low-income housing is there going to be in Cotino?
literally none.
Oh, it's going to be like the Disney parks where the associates have to take special underground.
Oh, yeah.
That's in Parkitect they do that. People don't like to see your workers, so you have to build underground tunnels.
They're going to say, oh, we've got houses for every price point, but most of them are underground.
The groundskeeper for your house is not allowed to use the sidewalks. He has to pop out of your yard in a tube.
And he's got to split his time between your house and maintenance on the Disney-owned properties.
Yeah.
But you pay his entire salary.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more about this.
Do you think they'll go forward with it? People were kind of pissy about it online.
I think so, yeah. I think there's enough. See, because you don't have to make everybody happy here. You have to make a very small group
The
of people
Disney
happy.
adults.
If
yeah.
Disney can bring about the future that you will own nothing, they will bring it about.
And everyone else will just jump on board. Man, that's sad.
Yeah.
But imagine how magical your birthdays are going to be there, the kids.
There may be enough inertial momentum from the people that already own everything to make it impossible to own anything in the future.
Well, the good news about that is that there's a tipping point way before we get there. That's the French Revolution.
See, everyone keeps talking about that, how like wealth inequality is worse than it was before the revolution, and it's not happening. So I don't know.
Yeah, because
People can tolerate a lot.
people keep trying to do it in a peaceful way.
Yeah.
And you see what that gets you. I'm not advocating for anything. I don't want any part of it. But I'll tell you what, parking your trucks ain't going to cut it anymore.
It is amazing how good technology is at laying bare the truth of those situations.
And yet, that truth is not permeating amongst the population.
No.
People are crying out for censorship and control.
Because it's for me and not for thee and not for me.
Well, listen, one day it'll come to Cotino, and you'll regret it.
They're going to run out of water before that happens.
Well, they'll just give them Disney water.
They're already out of water, and the reserves are almost gone too.
They're like, let's build this in the desert in California. Think how cool it'll look on the gram.
They're going to give you the Disney bottled water, and it tastes just a little bit like that disinfectant they use in the...
Bromine.
Yeah,
It's bromine. I couldn't think of it.
Do you have a genetic anomaly that makes you allergic to bromine? Too bad.
Don't live here.
No magic for you.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.